Hey everyone, it's the Detroit Gamesters, and we're back for episode 13.
What up,
We've,
what up?
we've been gone for a couple of weeks. Shamir has been gone on a nice trip to Europe.
Yeah, sorry everybody if I'm a little jet lagged on this recording. So I was actually out of country for like, 2.5 weeks,
Yeah.
2 weeks, something like that. Hung out in UK for a bit, went to Italy. Just landed yesterday actually, so yeah, I'm still kind of tired. But I really wanted to, get a recording in over the weekend because there's been some pretty big news to talk about. I think in our last episode, we were making predictions about
Xbox
Xbox
layoffs.
layoffs and things like that. And the timing is so funny because we ended up uploading, and by the time we uploaded, the Xbox layoffs came through.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of funny timing how that worked out, where we were predicting everything, and I definitely called it wrong because I was like, yeah, no, they're not going to cut studios. They're not going to cut any studios. And they went to town, bro. They like took the butcher out and just
and I said they were going to close some studios. I definitely called. I think I said Turn 10, but I was wrong on what was the studio made.
So you definitely talked about Double Fine, and then you were going on and on about Hellblade, and then Ninja Theory.
And did I say Initiative or no? I can't remember.
No, we never talked about the Initiative. Okay. So that blindsided both of us. So I know normally we start off by talking about what we've been playing, but I think, in the spirit of, to me, how this is like the biggest news in a while, maybe we can start off with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what did you think about the layoffs? Anything that really came as a gut punch or a big surprise to you?
I mean, I think, first of all, there was multiple things that happened. You had multiple people at Rare that have been at the studio for 20 to 30 years that just left, because Everwild was canceled or whatever the project was called. You had Phil basically come out and give this very generic statement about how profit has never been better and the success of Microsoft and Microsoft Gaming has been on a positive trajectory, yet we still had to let go of people. I think this industry has just, as a tech company being so big, they probably look at it as a bit of bloat because the rumors and the reports that have been coming out is that they're pivoting towards taking a lot of the money towards AI and building AI infrastructure. In order to do that, they have to pull funding from gaming. And I think that's kind of sad. I mean, you have the Initiative is completely closed down, which means that, there's no more Square Enix or Crystal Dynamics involvement there. And then you had Turn 10, which was working on Forza Motorsport and now is coming to just being a support studio for Forza Horizon. That's kind of what the reports are. And we don't know what happened to Contraband as well. So it's honestly...
Oh, and the canceled project for...
Blackbird.
Yeah, but that's the online.
Yeah, which is sad too, because from everything I read and heard, there was a lot of positive sentiment about how that project turned around internally and that they were making great progress on that game. And that game had been worked on multiple years, almost 8. And then all of a sudden, they didn't even know up until the day of.
So I don't know if you feel the same way as me, because for me, I felt like this was a massive gut punch. And in a way, I was kind of really happy that I was going on vacation because I felt kind of recharged and rejuvenated, and I actually got to, live life, But man, there was a lot of projects I was really looking forward to, and it was just a huge gut punch for me, especially for Perfect Dark. That was the one where, oh my God, that one hurt. Because especially when I was younger growing up, I grew up on the original Perfect Dark. Man, I was a kid, dude. I was like 7, 8 years old playing on the Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
And oh man, and I remember thinking, oh man, look, I'm playing this rated M game. Oops, right? And blood there was silly and everything. But still, it was really fun for the time. And then I even liked playing Perfect Dark Zero on the 360, and I think that was a game that showed some promise, but it wasn't there, right?
Yeah.
And like, it was probably a 7 out of 10 game for the time, right?
Still better than nothing.
Yeah, and not terrible, right? And I was really looking forward to like a proper rejuvenation of the franchise. I was thinking that, this could potentially be like another pillar, right? Like if pulled off
100%.
correctly, like now it's no longer just Gears, Forza, maybe Fable if they bring it back successfully, in Halo. Now we also have Perfect Dark. I always kept talking about how we don't really have spy thriller games because, you don't see a lot of Tom Clancy games anymore. Cyberpunk kind of filled that niche a little bit, but that was like very futuristic. So I felt like Perfect Dark was there for like the perfect audience. It didn't really have much competition, had name recognition, would have been an exciting addition to the repertoire. I know Initiative is brand new, but Crystal Dynamics does have some weight behind them, right? So I thought that could round out some edges. And personally, I really, really liked what I saw from the showcase a year ago. But that really goes to show you how bad a vertical slice how
So
damaging a vertical slice can be.
that's what it was, right? A vertical slice. And I know we talked about this before you left, and now it's been confirmed that essentially the way the demo was played, it had to be played perfectly. So
Yeah,
they had to play in a way where the AI or the NPCs reacted in a specific way, and you had to advance in a specific way. Because if you didn't, it
yeah,
didn't play that way,
yeah.
and it wasn't good looking. So that's the nature of a vertical slice.
And like I kind of, as people have been talking about this a lot online, like now I'm starting to understand more what a vertical slice means. Like you make a vertical slice as a way of selling the vision of the
Yeah,
game,
one
right?
hundred
And like
percent.
this is what we want the game to look like and play like for the entirety of the game. Right
Yeah,
now we can just get it at the 1 or 2% stage,
yeah.
in terms of the duration of the gameplay, and this is what's going to look like
But
as
there
the
was
final project,
promise. There
right?
was
But it
promise.
was super promising,
Yeah,
and I think almost everyone I mean, a lot of people were worried that it was a vertical slice, but everyone was praising Perfect Dark.
yeah.
I thought it had its own identity with the graphics and everything. So to me, that was just so depressing. That was a real gut punch.
Well, not just for us, but like I've been doing some more research into this since the layoffs, and I listen to a lot of prominent people now within the games industry, and they've gotten a lot of DMs from people that work at Microsoft Gaming, a lot of developers, and this is a shock to everyone, even internally.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of people internally saying, "F Microsoft, screw
yeah.
Microsoft,"
So
because this isn't the
and
way to do
I'm
it.
always like gassing up Microsoft because I'm a huge Microsoft fanboy. But I mean, to me, like I don't know if I give this. What would you give this? 1 F, 2 Fs, 3 Fs? Because this is all the Fs in the game to me. Like this is such a
Yeah,
massive fail. And to me, it's like it comes down to the management because especially after Scalebound, right? Like
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
you announced Scalebound, you were in such a low point that was almost the death of Xbox, right? And people saw that slice of gameplay for Scalebound. They saw the trailers. They were getting so hyped.
Yeah,
The name recognition was there. And then Phil had to take a massive L,
yeah,
right? And you would think that would burn a memory so deep inside of his conscious that he would never, ever put himself in that situation again. And is this not Scalebound 2.0, right? Like,
yeah. Like I'll say this, like personally, it seems like Phil is a good person
yeah,
overall. There's so many stories about how Phil will call like YouTubers, influencers, and check up on them, etc.
yeah,
There's like all these stories about him just personally being a good person, but
yeah.
he still has to
Yeah,
answer.
I mean, that's what I
He's
struggle with when it comes to Phil. Like, there's so many things to like about him. Like
yeah, as
even
a
when he's
person.
like talking about games like Fallout, someone nukes this
Yeah, of
land,
course.
he's such a
Yeah,
gamer.
he's a
He's trying to nuke
gamer.
them back.
He's like us,
And
right?
I love that about him. I love his enthusiasm. I do love a lot of the changes he's made for Xbox and the way he's kind of, you know, has steered into Game Pass and,
Yeah, of course.
trying to bring some, name recognition and big franchises. But at the end of the day, man, it comes down to management, right? Like
Yeah, like
that's literally the job of
he's
management to know that hey, not every project is going to work out, and our literal job is to be able to better predict like what projects can mature and which projects need to be cut early,
yeah, and
right?
I think that's the thing. Like he's known now as the Microsoft Gaming CEO, but in all reality, it really still seems like he's more middle management, and he's
It
pandering to
feels like that,
someone
right?
above him. And if they're pulling budget and they go, now you have to make this budget work, it's kind of sad because ultimately then he doesn't have the final say on what gets to stay or what gets to evolve and what gets to
Yeah,
flourish. So
I feel like because he's a popular guy, like this is just my personal opinion, like Microsoft makes him the scapegoat,
yeah, 100%.
knowing that like he has enough love in the
And
community
cachet,
and cachet that he's going to be able to be the fall guy, but then
yeah,
still be in the industry and still be revered and respected and all those things. But
and put out the fire.
so I don't know who's to blame, but all I can say is like at some point it's the management, right?
Yeah, some point.
Because and it's not like I'm trying to create this divide like, hey, the managerial class sucks, the working, class, they work so hard. The thing is when you're doing creative projects, like there's creatives and there's managers, right? And you kind of need that balance. And you can be a creative who is also good at managing, right?
Yeah,
Like for me, I know I can be very creative. I'm terrible at managing the process,
yeah,
planning ahead, getting a timeline, sticking with the timeline, all those type of things, right? That's another set of skills, right? And anytime you're in any creative project like field, like there's a certain percentage of your projects, no matter how promising they sound, they're not going to go to fruition,
yeah,
right? And literally your job is to be able to know what project needs extra time, extra funding,
yeah,
right, to make it more viable, and which ones where you just need to cut it early.
yeah.
And I mean, it goes without saying in hindsight, God, they should have cut this a long, long time ago, right?
Yeah, like
And what are all the what ifs? Like if they had cut it a long time ago, diverted the funds to something else, you could have given it to someone who really needed it, right?
yeah. I mean, again, the way I look at it too is twofold. I still think Matt Booty should have been fired a long time ago, but that's neither here nor there now. I'm just putting that out there. But two, it's more of like people are now, and I think from what I'm hearing from the community, is like, hey, we should speak with our wallets. Like, cancel your Game Pass subscription. I'm never going to tell anyone what to do with their money. And I understand within the industry, I have sympathy for the people losing their jobs because the industry I'm in is going through the same thing. I work for a quote unquote basically tech company now, and we're laying off people every month. In fact, we had layoffs last week again where we cut 100 and some jobs. But I'm okay. Look, I'll say this as a service that they provide. I love Game Pass.
Yeah.
I don't want to get rid of it, even though they've laid off 8,000.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to get rid of Game Pass
You know?
because there's still so much there that's so promising.
Yeah.
But I think for me now, like I was really very happy with Microsoft in spite of them doing things that really bothered me or hurt me. I really felt some type of way after the Hi-Fi Rush thing. I really got upset after they fired, I forgot his name, but the guy from Halo Infinite.
Chris.
The Joseph Statham?
Oh, just the one that you like, yeah.
Yeah. I really like that guy. And so I was really upset at those things. But I think for me, this is like the biggest gut punch because I'm just like, again, I was like, we went through Scalebound. And for me, Perfect Dark was one of my most hyped things because I love the original and it was something that fit a niche that's not being served anywhere else. So that's why I think that cancellation just really hurt. And man, like what the initiative accomplished nothing. Right?
Yeah.
Like, what did they do?
Well, so let me put this into perspective and give a comparison here. So someone brought this up on Twitter. I think it was someone really prominent, but it was nice to see this. And you can do the comparison here because they brought up the fact that at Nintendo, right, smaller company focused primarily on games for the most part, their retention rate for employees there between the US and Japan offices is between 95 to 98%. And most employees at least stay for a minimum of 10 years. Okay. And normally when Nintendo makes a game, for example, Metroid, we know that's not a great selling game. Most of the like Metroid Dread sold like 2 million copies. They don't fire people after a game sells only 2 million copies. They say, hey, we're happy we were able to give out this niche product and we want to continue making more of it. In fact, they do that generation after generation. But there's a reason why people come to Nintendo now and stay there. So like one of the really prominent guys that worked on Silent Hill, I forgot his name, Japanese developer, ended up coming to Nintendo. He helped make Luigi's Mansion 3, and guess what? That game sold 15 million copies, and you don't hear from him ever anymore.
Well, honestly, a lot of the big names are leaving Microsoft, right?
Yeah.
Like, was it Shinji Mikami?
Shinji Mikami.
Like, he left. The guy just left from Rare. That was a big deal.
And this is going to happen more and more. And to compare this to Microsoft, Microsoft isn't just a gaming company. Because they're a tech company, you're often going to see, instead of trying to save the developers, they're just going to let them go.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, Microsoft is doing kind of what they do in Microsoft through Xbox, right? Yeah. And it's like, I understand that it's all tech, right? But technically, this is in the creative space. Microsoft, like, you're not in movies. You're not in television. Like, this is new for you. Yeah. Like, I know you've been, let me clarify, like, I know you've been in gaming for a long time, right? You're in a way, one of the OGs because, PC, right? Yeah. But at the same time, like, this is new for you in the sense that, like, your new board, Satya, everybody, right? Mm-hmm. They're not necessarily managing very creative things. The most creative stuff you had was Surface and Microsoft. Yeah. Surface and Xbox. So, like, it's not a one-for-one transfer because I feel like how Microsoft works, and this works well for Windows and AI and all those things, it's kind of a revolving door, right? Yeah, and like that creates like urgency to rise to the top, make projects work, things like that. But you can't really do that with creative things, right? Because I think when you're doing something that's more industrial, office, those type of things, like if you make something that works well, people will like it, and it will work. But in creative stuff, like you can make something that's good on paper and people might still not vibe with it.
Yeah, right? And I think like in examples, you look at Psychonauts. That game probably sold just as much as maybe what Metroid Dread sold, maybe a 1 to 2 million copies. And we're lucky enough that Double Fine still exists. But then you look at Hi-Fi Rush that sold only 1.1 or 1.4 million, and they axed that one. Yeah. So like, it would be nice if they just said, "Look, we like," and that's a game of the not a game of the year nominee, or did they? Yeah. And it's like,
honestly, like Hi-Fi Rush could have won a game of the year in a year that wasn't so stacked.
Exactly.
But that year was so stacked.
That was 23.
Yeah, 23. Yeah,
Yeah, which there was
such
a
a stacked
stacked
year.
year.
And who's going to be Baldur's Gate?
Yeah, right. Plus, there was just Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom,
Oh yeah,
etc.,
there's
whatever. But like, yeah. So I think you're right. It's a revolving door, and they're applying everything from Microsoft into the Xbox division, and that's unfortunate.
yeah.
And yes, we get that like development in the US is more expensive. So in Japan, it's probably slightly cheaper to pay the developers, but they're
Europe, everything. Yeah.
but it's all about satisfaction and engagement. They have their employees satisfied and engaged in the work they're doing. They give them creative freedom to make games. But when you give someone like the initiative a blank check and then
No.
you say, hey, you guys don't get together well, and then now we just have to cut it
No.
and we think you're all a failure, like that might
Yeah,
not
I
really
mean
be the
it's
case.
and that's what I mean. It's just bad management
Yeah.
decisions. You give one company a bad blank check, then you go to other people and you're like, okay, you're going to make this on Xbox only, but then
Yeah.
Xbox has a small user base. But don't worry, we're not, judging you by your sales volume.
Yeah.
But then because Xbox is a small niche, right? You're not, going on PlayStation, right? Your Xbox PC ports are terrible, right? And
Yeah.
for a while, we weren't even doing Steam on everything, right? Then why would these games sell well, right?
Well,
They're not going to sell well. Like if, I'm not talking about this year, but in the past, right? So it's just a strange strategy. And in a way, you're kind of setting up studios for failure, right?
well, so then the question becomes: is what are they being measured on for success?
No
We
idea.
don't know at this point. They're no longer, nor are they saying it. So I want to bring up something that's relevant to this. So Chris Dring, who I think is an analytics expert in the video games industry, he posted recently how Game Pass is profitable even when factoring lost sales for first party games for Xbox. And then he tried to get some clarification from Microsoft. And I think this is interesting because I think it's all over the place, to be quite honest, because if you're not factoring first party sales and you're really just doing third party plus marketing and deals, that doesn't really tell me a whole
No.
lot. It's not the
And
full
the thing is, like,
picture.
how are you calculating something like opportunity cost, right?
Exactly.
Like, how would you ever know, hey, this game could have sold 10 million,
Right.
but we were on Game Pass, we sold 3 millions, it covered our development costs, and we
Right.
grew the base by 5%.
Yeah.
Like, is that a success, or is
Yeah.
it just, if you factor in the opportunity cost, it's still a massive failure?
Yeah, because if I were to do that as a first party game, if let's say Game Pass subscription or subscribers go up by 2 million in a single year, like let's say this year, are they then chunking that up between multiple developers? Say, well, we did it because these 5 studios are all. Who is getting the success?
And so that's the thing that makes no sense, because it's like, either you have this holistic approach where you're like, okay, we're all in this together, we're not going to cut, and so, maybe some people are carrying a lot of weight, some people are carrying a little weight, but really you're just trying to make the most compelling library,
Yeah.
right? That's one way, right? But when you do it this way, it's kind of confusing. And I feel like it kind of bears some resemblance to me to what Netflix does and Prime Video, right? Like they will cut shows that seem kind of popular after just a season or two, and you're just like, what happened?
Yeah, that happens a lot
happened?
too. Yeah, and I guess.
And then you get a little worried. You're like, should I even invest in this TV show?
Yeah,
Should I even invest in this
100%.
gaming franchise
100%.
if you're just gonna cut it?
Which are on Netflix
Yeah.
and etc. Like, yeah, and again, they have to figure out how they want to not only measure success going forward, but being honest now and upfront. So I like that Phil comes to all the developers like, look, you guys have a future here, especially when they took in Activision. We were like, we're going to do great things. But if he was more upfront and a little stern about the fact that we're like, hey guys, but we're going to have to be lean. We're going to have to make sure we save money. This wouldn't have been as big of a blow, right?
So, and like, as someone who's an aspiring creative myself, right? Like I have a couple novels I've been working on, right? And we were actually just talking about this, like I have one novel that's finished, that's a YA. I think that's the most commercially viable, and I really enjoyed writing that story. And it's one of my favorite stories, right? But it's not my favorite story, right?
Yeah.
My favorite story is Living Nightmares, right? Because I just think it's such a cool niche of a story. But that is not very viable as a product. It's a very challenging thing to deliver. I've rewritten it a million times. I just don't think I have all of the tools in my toolkit yet to write it.
Right.
Now, if Phil Spencer came up to me and was like, hey, do whatever you want. We got you.
Yeah.
I'm going to work on Living Nightmares.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to make that dream come true, right? And then if later you're like, oh, actually, you should have maybe done something that was more viable. I'm like, why didn't you tell me from the start?
Why didn't you tell me from the start?
And it's not like you have to be a shill and just like make something that is going to
sell.
Is going to sell, right? Like no, like you can make a project, you kind of get a sense, okay, this is my audience,
Yes, that's what
like
you
I
need to
kind of
do.
have a sense of how viable this is and what the metrics will be, how much time I will spend,
Yeah,
like you kind of have a sense of that,
yeah, you
right?
have a sense of
And then
it.
you have a sense of what's your passion project. Like Pentiment is a passion project,
Yeah,
right?
that's a
Like,
passion project.
right, and like, but like if all of a sudden Phil's like, hey, why don't you make Pentiment into this crazy 3D game that's
Yeah,
gonna make you 5 years, right? Like, if you had carte blanche, maybe you're like, oh, why not?
yeah,
But if you didn't, then you'd be like, do I really want to, spend that much time and money? No, you're not going to do that. You're going
yeah,
to make Outer Worlds too, right?
exactly.
So I think in a way, like, and it sucks because it's like not Phil being the bad guy, but it's like good intentions that
Yes, good.
soured,
Yeah,
right?
good intentions, and he probably did want that for his teams. It's just that when push comes to the shove, he's also now they know going forward these developers they can't really trust Phil, right? In the sense that
Yeah.
they're not going to say no to him on anything. They'll just say, okay, you want us to make a new game? We just finished the last one. We just sold Outer Worlds 2. What do you want us to do next? And he goes, make whatever you want. They go, okay, but
Are you
maybe
sure?
are you
You
sure you want us to do
sure?
that, or do you want us to focus on something? Because that's what I'm going to be asking. I'm not going to be like, okay, there's a blank check. I'm going to be like,
Yeah.
you tell me because I don't want to get fired in 3 years from
Right,
now.
right. Well, I also get the feeling because Microsoft is saying, "Hey, we are reprioritizing our resources."
Yeah.
I think they're trying to go into safe harbor. I
Agreed.
think they're seeing what's happening with Ubisoft, other companies, and they're like, "Hey, we got to play it safe. This stuff is really unpredictable."
Yeah,
And they're probably just going to make a bunch of Fallouts. They're
yeah.
probably going to
I agree.
they're going to go to the
Fallout,
safe harbor.
yeah,
They're
Sky or not, Oblivion.
yeah, they're going to look at their franchises that have the most name recognition, and they're probably going to have multiple studios working on multiple things, and they're
Yeah.
just going to try and play it safe until they feel like they have a very strong foundation and a strong base,
Yeah.
right? Because like that's the only way I'm starting to make sense of some of these ideas because it's like some of these decisions, like you look at what some of these teams have done, and these have been successful teams, and they still got the axe, right?
Yeah.
Like Turn 10. How long has Turn 10 been holding up Microsoft?
Yeah, it's been a
Okay,
long
how
time.
many Forzas have they released? Yes, Horizon is selling super well, but Motorsport has carried
Yeah,
Xbox for such a long time.
a very long time.
And okay, fine, you make one Motorsport that
Doesn't
maybe didn't
sell that
sell as
well.
well. Maybe it was a Game Pass effect, maybe not. I mean, there was some
But they deserve
controversy.
some
Yeah,
grace a bit. Like,
yeah, but it's like give them some grace. Like out of all of the studios who
yeah,
carried you, Motorsport has always carried you, and it gave you the ability to really make Horizon a thing because 1 and 2 weren't selling like hotcakes. They
yeah,
were selling, but they weren't. It was really 3 picked up, then 4, then
yeah,
5, right? And so, like, if you didn't have Forza Motorsport, as the backbone for a long time, would Microsoft be here?
no,
And also would Horizon been able to flourish, right?
yeah,
Because like you're taking it for granted.
yeah,
Like to me, like Halo and Gears, like definitely Halo first, then Gears, carry things. But I think a lot of times people sleep on the relevance of Forza Motorsport and racing games because they're like, oh, it's racing game, right?
yeah,
But man, for a long time, do you remember those years when all we had was Forza Motorsport
yeah.
5
And everyone
and then 6
complained.
and 7?
Yeah, and then
There's nothing else being released,
yeah,
right?
which maybe they have too much confidence in the fact that Fable will become their next. So it'll be Fable and
Yeah.
Horizon,
And
but it's not even out
you're
yet.
gonna cut half your team.
Yeah,
Half your
half
team.
your team.
And
It's like,
after that team was carrying you for such a long time.
yeah, that's
Right?
just
And it's
an
like,
odd
and they
choice.
made a little pivot, like you're thinking these people can't pivot back and make a Forza Motorsport 8 or
Yeah,
9
why not?
and be as successful. Why not? Why don't you trust them?
Yeah,
And so that's rough. And then I think I was reading somewhere, and you might want to fact check me on this, but Elder Scroll Online has made like $1 billion,
damn.
like an insane amount of revenue. And like, listen, these guys have made you that much money. And honestly, what have you done for them? Like,
Yeah,
I know I'm sounding kind of harsh, but okay, maybe you were able to, give them a stage so more people were paying attention to them. But really, like, they kind of did this on their own,
yeah, they
right?
did this
Like,
on their
if
own.
at least to me, it seems like they did it on their own, and they were just grinding and working and building up Elder Scroll,
Yeah,
online. And look, this game, as far as I can tell, this project they had was in pre-production for a while. They had their ideas, right? They pitched it. Phil absolutely loved it. Everyone who came across it loved it. I was reading some things about what it was going to be like. Sounded really cool, right? And they wanted 3 years
yeah,
after they made $1 billion, and they just—it's not like this was the initiative, and Rare spending like 7 years,
Yeah.
and what did it result in? These guys hadn't even started really. They
Yeah.
just got through pre-production, pitched, and now they wanted 3 years to make a game. Not a ridiculous ask. After you make $1 billion, you cut their game.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's interesting because like I was just listening to Mr. Mandy Play's podcast not too long ago, and they have someone that's on their show regularly. His name is Hogue. I think he's like a lawyer, and I think he's like one of like Sacred Symbols lawyers or something. And his brother worked for them, who was making Project Blackbird or whatever it's called. And he said the sentiment within the studio was that most of the people now that the project has been canceled, just want to leave the company and not work on games going forward. Like that was like a passion project
Yeah.
for them for years.
Just absolute gut
Yeah.
punch. And for what? Like, you think that like you're just gonna keep giving people the same things again and again, and you're gonna go to your safe harbors, and that's gonna be
I
it?
actually think that they're also banking on the fact that they'll have attrition. Like now that they've canceled a bunch of projects, I think they want people to leave
quit.
on their own. And I think they go, this is how we slow down.
I mean, hey,
that's my.
I mean, honestly,
feeling.
that makes sense,
And it makes sense.
That makes sense. I mean, that's how you get people cut. But it's like you're in a place right now where you're not really anticipating or thinking about the problems of tomorrow. You're only thinking about the problems of today.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, okay, I need to slim down. This is what I have to hit. So we're going to do it, and we're going to make the difficult decisions to plan for tomorrow. But by doing that, you're going to create future problems for yourself that you wouldn't have had to deal with, right? So to me, it's just not a smart tactic. And I think we're not going to really see like the direct effects of this immediately, right? Because a lot of these things were down the line. But really, we're going to see the effects in 3-4 years, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how long a lot of these games would have taken. And it's just really sad to me. Perfect Dark is the biggest hit for me. And I was going to say this earlier, but I forgot. Especially because they're not going to resurrect Perfect Dark.
They're not after this.
They're not going to touch it, right? They're going to call it radioactive, right? And they're going to say, we pour all this money into it. We're never going to touch it again. So then that franchise, to me, that memory is dead, right? And Microsoft is going to sit on this forever. It's not like Microsoft's going to let another team actually make this correctly. They just ruin the franchise.
Yeah.
And so that hurts, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why, for me, that's the worst possible thing, right?
Yeah.
I think the ESO one really sucks, right? That would be my number 2. And then number 3, I think axing, half of Forza, that sucks, right? Not because, Forza's not really my game, but like, man, have some respect for your people, right?
Yeah.
Like, they carried you for so long, right? And maybe it's not like Forza Motorsport Online or whatever was a massive failure, just it wasn't as good, right?
It just wasn't as good. I mean, we saw Forza Horizon sell like 2 million copies on PlayStation 5 as soon as it released, which is like, okay.
It's like, when someone has a wife and then you trade it in for someone younger, right? Sheesh. Maybe a bad analogy, but right, like it's like Forza Horizon is like the hot new thing, and you forgot about Forza Motorsport that was carrying you for so long. Like, come on, man.
Your high school love,
right? This is messed up. Your high school love got older, and now you're the
dating a model.
You're a model, like.
Yeah, and I think like it's not to say that Xbox doesn't have any promising projects still upcoming. We got Gears, we got
next
Fable.
year's gonna be stacked.
Yeah, we got. I mean, there's supposedly I think they're already working on a sequel to Indiana Jones.
Yeah. And there's still
Halo,
things like Blade. I think that's going to deliver. So there's a lot of very promising things.
I don't know why. I think it's some legal court case or something in France. I forget what, but it was revealed that the budget for Blade is 100 million euros or something like that.
Okay. So I think the development isn't as expensive over there as well. So there's a lot to look forward to. But man, those really hit hard. I think for me, the Rare Everwild thing doesn't hit as hard, right? Yeah. Because honestly, for a long time, I was like, why is this not being canceled? And I was honestly thinking it was canceled until Phil was like, oh, it's coming along. It's going good.
Yeah. Months before.
But I feel like if Phil had never said that.
Yeah, he doesn't have
and then they just said, we canceled Everwild.
Yeah, we said we expected
I think no one would have been surprised.
Yeah,
right?
No
one would have been surprised. And so that's why that one doesn't hit as hard. I just feel bad for Phil because it's like, okay, where's the disconnect in this agency?
Well, because I think at the literally 6 months ago is when he stated that. I think he believed at the time no one was going to get cut. I don't think he knew, right? Like, I'll be honest with you. I actually think he probably didn't know.
I feel so bad for Phil.
You know what I'm saying?
But what if he wakes up the same day we wake up and he finds out the studio's got cut this I know that's not happening.
Probably a month or 2 months or 3 months before. But yeah, not too much earlier than that. And I think the other thing is, Do I care that a bunch of prominent people from Rare left now? Probably not, because I don't specifically, because like again they just did all they did was see things, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I was already over that.
Yeah.
They couldn't even go back to some of their prime IP
Yeah.
that they had made in the
So
past.
to me, like I think I was a little more affected by that. I mean, I kind of grew up with Rare, so I did, really enjoy a lot of their older games.
Yeah, I did
But it's
too.
just like the fact that like a lot of these old veteran presences are leaving, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like it's an ominous sign, right? Like it's
Mm.
like Shinji
It's an end of an era.
Mikami, end of an era. Like a lot of these, like you
I
know,
mean, think about it this way: Rare was the first one to make Donkey Kong 64, basically
crazy.
the precursor to Donkey Kong Bonanza. How crazy was is that? You had that team make
Yeah,
that
yeah,
game
I know,
to
right?
now
It's
make that a spiritual
yeah,
successor that Switch 2 is enjoying. Like crazy stuff. They had that
yeah.
talent there.
So I mean, I think whether you're hating on Xbox or you're the biggest Xbox fan, I mean, there's no other way of saying you can be happy for the future games, but
Yeah,
like this is a massive failure,
yeah.
and this is
This is hell.
management doing just an absolute terrible time and job, and really you should have cut these projects early,
Yeah, yeah.
and if you had cut these projects early, then you probably could have invested better in something else. And I know this is like kind of the hindsight is obvious thing, but the reason I really am stressing it is this is not the first time it's happened,
No, of course
right?
not.
And it's like if this was the first time this happened, I'd be like, okay, we all make mistakes, right? But like after Scalebound, right?
Yeah, and
It's
then a
like,
huge
come on
debacle.
now. Like you made a point saying that we have learned and we're not gonna do this
Yeah,
again.
and like I don't want to say this doesn't hit close to home. Again sympathize with, and it's not just game developers. Sure, I sympathize with those people. I am not gonna stop my Xbox Game Pass subscription. Maybe next year when it ends, I'll reconsider. There's still products for me to enjoy. They just need to get their shit together, and at the end of the day, there's still games to look forward to in this industry. But as I sympathize because again, I work in a similar field, and I myself am scared for these types of things to
No.
happen because I'm seeing it.
Well,
So
because it's kind of scary. Because then you're just like,
I'm waiting for it
man,
to
like no
happen.
matter like how good I
Yeah, I'm
am,
just waiting for something to
I
happen.
don't know if something's gonna drop because I am being led in the wrong direction.
hundred
And it just
percent.
kind of sucks when like you're working as hard as you can, but then you get cut and your life gets ruined
Yeah,
because
upset, thrown
it
upset.
was something was being pointed in the wrong
Well,
direction.
especially when you have middle management telling you, "Hey, everything's great. Like, keep doing what you're doing," and then all of a sudden they're like, "You have no longer access to your
Yeah.
computer. Stay home. Don't
Oh,
badge in."
I mean that's like the way they do these cuts
It's
nowadays
insane.
is insane. It's wow. Like how jarring is that?
So I'll give a quick example here. I know it's not video game related, but so this just happened at work for me. Like last week, there's this team of program managers, 138 employees. They got an email saying you guys are all eliminated, and we're rehiring for only 80 positions rather than the 138. You can reapply if you want. By the way, you have to stay home. All your email access is disabled. Your badges is disabled. If you don't want to reapply, you can get a severance package, and that's it. And you have 2 weeks to figure this out. I'm like,
Man,
who does this? Is the most
what is
creative way
going
to
on
fire
here? Yeah.
people. It's like,
It's just a weird time, dude. And I think I was actually reading an article that my cousin sent me that in 2025 so far we've had the most layoffs. Like it's just been a
wow.
crazy amount of layoffs. Because
More so than the last 2 years.
I
That's
think
crazy.
so, yeah. Because tech is just like cutting everywhere, right?
Crazy,
And
man.
so
And if it truly is, if it's because AI, everyone's chasing this AI trend, that's sad
yeah, that's part of
because
it.
it's like I get it. It can be transformative, but it might. I think we're trying to streamline way too much stuff too quickly right now, not understanding the impacts of it, and you
Yeah.
can't replace
So
creativity.
yeah, so and I guess this is going to be like a really random example, but talking about my Europe trip, right? And when I was in Italy, right? So many of the stuff was like a person to person interaction, right? And so like really we're getting taxis, we're talking to tour guides who are like kind of doing some of our, outings and things like that, getting a sense from them, like where to eat, where to drink. Like I'm so used to just pulling up Yelp in America and doing things and pulling up an Eater article and seeing, but like I couldn't really do that there. So I have to trust Google reviews. But I feel like I didn't get the best information from there. So it was a lot of just like hearing from someone, right? And then, I was just thinking about it and I was like, hey, like we're making this self-driving push, right? Okay, that's great. Okay, but like for some of these things, do we really want to go all AI? Because
Yeah,
like if I was in a foreign country and I was trying to feel comfortable with the place and it was just AI,
yeah.
like
It's
how
like
you know what I mean? Like how am I gonna feel comfortable with like, hey, yeah, these people are normal in this country. They're like not going to try and kill me and kidnap me. And these places that they're telling me to go to are great. You know, like
Yeah.
it's one thing if like you meet someone, you get a sense of their body language, what they're about. Like, all right, you say this bar is good. You think this restaurant's good. Yeah, I'll go there. But like an AI is never going to make you feel that way.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so like at its core, like AI is going to be a very helpful tool, but it's not a full replacement. And I think what I'm afraid is going to happen, and I'm kind of seeing it, is people are going to get overhyped about it and use it more as a replacement tool until they find what can't be replaced, and then they have to backtrack. And then it's like a pendulum swing,
Yeah.
right? And so, and that's going to happen, and it's just going to suck for a lot of people, right? Because, and maybe that's how progress works. Maybe you're only going to know what's, you know, absolutely mandatory, right?
Yeah,
Until you cut
until you
it, and
cut
then you
it,
realize it.
and then you go back to
That
the
just,
what worked, and that's how most of these companies operate. So Microsoft will probably go on another hiring spree a couple years from now, and they'll hire a bunch of people back, and that's just how it is. And people won't, not that people won't complain, they'll just take it, whatever opportunities they can get, and that's just how the industry is.
yeah.
It sucks.
And it's like a lot of random situations. Like, okay, let's say you're in a self-driving car, and then there's an accident that happens, or like something, not even you, like just next to you, or like some weird situation happens where like someone is banging on your window. If there's an actual person, you can kind of empathize. You can be like, oh my god, what's going on? You can figure shit out together.
Yeah.
If it's an AI, you know, you gotta talk to this AI like, oh my god, there's a guy walking around with a gun, you know? It has to be like, oh, call 911. Can I offer you anything else? It's like,
Start.
no, man, we're gonna die. We're gonna die. You know, so there's just some certain intangible or unpredictable things, right? That you just can't replace everything with AI.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but anyways, you know, that was kind of the gut punch for me. But I think after like a couple of weeks, you know, I was able to digest it. You know, I was on my vacation, so that was good. I was able to game quite a bit actually, probably because there was so much public transport, right? Because I was on a bunch of trains and plane.
Yeah.
Honestly, me and my wife were talking about we probably use every form of transportation, like planes, trains, ferries. Like really, you got to, right? Like when you're in Europe. And I brought my ASUS ROG with me, and I wanted to talk about that for a little bit because I think I've been kind of down on the ROG for a bit, and I was like, the updates are really annoying. Windows experience kind of sucks. And it did kind of suck because I had to like prep my device like before I went, and I had to like update all this stuff, and it's like not super straightforward. I don't know if you find it straightforward, but you have to update it in like multiple places.
Yeah.
Like there's Windows Update, but then ROG has its separate updates in Armory Crate. It's like so confusing, and then sometimes it's like an update to the BIOS, and it looks all freaky. So it's like not a straightforward process. And then some of the external things, like first, for whatever reason, I'm having a hard time logging into Steam now.
Okay.
You know, Blizzard's always running in the background, eating stuff up. You know, so those things are still kind of wonky. But I actually had a really good experience with Xbox Game Pass on my Asus ROG, and I just wanted to talk about that for a bit because maybe I'm just stupid, but I didn't, and I probably am, but I didn't realize you can just set your ROG as an offline device. And then basically, most of the games on a PC Game Pass, you just have to load them up one time. And then after that, you can just log into them right away, just like it was like a Switch.
But for how long does that last for?
I don't know. I haven't looked it up. Like maybe it's 30 days or something.
Okay, that's not bad at all.
And then you can like, and I guess there's a certain amount of times you can set one of your PC devices as an offline device. I think it's like 3 or 4 times a year or something like that. Don't quote me. But anyways, I did that. So then I had to download all these games, and then I had to set them all. You know, I had to load them all up, which also made me go over my data cap. So I got I got in trouble for that because I had to download everything. On 2 devices basically. Because I had already downloaded everything on my Xbox, and then I downloaded it again on my ROG. And so it was a whole process. It took me like half a day to get this all figured out. But then afterwards, man, it was so nice. You know, I was sitting on the plane, and you know, even if the battery life sucks, like the ROG charger was fine, right? And I just plugged it in and played. So I was able to beat all of Dishonored.
Wait, you were on like economy? You had
I was on economy, yeah, and I thought it was fine, yeah.
Well, no, you had the ability to plug in. There was like an outlet for you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's just a Delta thing, but we normally fly Delta because, you know, Detroit's the hub. And in between the Delta seats, at the bottom, there's like a plug-in. And, you know, a lot of times it's really hard to plug things into that. But for whatever reason, the ASUS RG charger just plugs in perfect. I don't know if the design there is just a happy coincidence, but like the weight distribution works out. So it actually like days plugged in.
Okay.
So
What power profile were you playing at? What TDP 30 watt,
30
25
watt,
watt?
yeah.
Wow, so you're playing at the max.
So I was playing it on max, and I played Dishonored 1, and it ran like butter. It was so nice.
Wow.
120 max settings. It was an old game, but on a device like that, looked great. So I beat the whole thing. It was not that long. It was like maybe 10 hours. And then I started playing Dishonored 2 as well. I had to tweak some stuff for it. But it still like worked out pretty well. I feel like it's actually a pretty smooth experience. And then I was trying to really get into Shadow of Mordor. And I know you've recommended that to me before, and I didn't really get into it. And it was a really good experience at first. It runs really well on the device, and honestly, the story's kind of really cool. Like,
Yeah,
it's
it's
about
great.
Celebrimbor and stuff. Like, oh my god,
I love
I'm
Celebrimbor.
like the biggest Lord of the Rings fan, and I was like, man, I should have gotten into this earlier. But that does not work well. Like,
Really?
and it's like I feel like for maybe it's an EA thing, or maybe it's like a and maybe
Oh,
Blizzard
you're not talking about game performance. You're talking about just logging into the game.
logging in.
Okay.
Yeah, I should explain that. Just the whole experience. It's just really annoying because, like, for some things, like for instance, like Crash Bandicoot, right? Like, I wanted to play that, and for whatever reason, like the save data doesn't go through, even though it's supposed to because it's on Blizzard, right?
Okay.
But I played it on my Xbox a bit. And I tried to play it on the ASUS RG. Didn't come through, even though it's Blizzard, and then on Diablo it does, and it's a newer game, but whatever.
Okay.
So that worked terribly, and that's annoying because you have to have Blizzard in the background.
Yeah.
I know it was a tangent, but then on Shadow of Mordor, even though I didn't really have to activate the EA account and website and all those things, it was always trying to reach to the global server, and I just could not play the game. And I think a lot of these games, like Assassin's Creeds and I haven't tried it, but I suspect like a lot of times when you log into these games, it tries to like check into the database to like see your progress or something like that.
It's probably
And then it just blocks the game. So because of that, I just could not play it on the plane. And so I was like, all right, whatever. I got pissed off.
Well, how many hours of the game did you play Shadow Mordor?
Maybe only an hour or two. Or maybe like 2-3 hours.
For that to have made an impression on you with only 2-3 hours,
it was pretty great. Yeah, the story was very interesting in the beginning.
Do you plan to finish it?
Maybe. I mean, the thing is, like, and I guess more stuff to talk about. I'm actually in between like 5 games right now, so I don't know where I'm gonna be because I got kind of far into Dishonored 2, so maybe I'll beat that. I just have to re-download it on my Xbox. Then I've been playing some Call of Duty World War II because sometimes I'm just like super basic and I just want to shoot something. So then Call of Duty's perfect.
Why don't you finish Dishonored 2 on your ROG when you go to sleep? Like just 30 minutes, lay down, play it.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that. I mean, it seems like it's like a larger game, but it's really good. Honestly, I don't know why I never got into it. At first.
I want to check it out. I'll say one of these days.
The thing is, like, I thought it was going to be too much like stealth, and I'm not about that. Like I said, I never got into Metal Gear Solid because of that. But honestly, I've just played Dishonored like I'm a madman, and I just kill everything.
Throwing knives and
stuff. And the thing is, actually, you're like kind of penalized for killing everything because there's like a chaos meter, and basically it's low chaos, meaning you didn't kill a bunch of people. But if you kill everybody, it causes like a rat plague because it's like the middle of the bubonic plague. So there's like a bunch more rats that come and like eat all the people you kill.
That's actually funny.
And that actually like has real world consequences on the story and stuff.
That's interesting.
And then you get like a high chaos ending. So it's kind of interesting. So in a way, it's like how you can play good guy, bad guy. And this if you play stealth, you kill less people, so it's kind of the good ending. And if you kill everybody because you're very aggressive, then you get the bad ending. In a way.
This is the main Arcane studio.
Yeah, it's the main Arcane. Yeah, and I think Dishonored made them famous, right? So
yeah. And
I played 1. It was pretty good, but it was kind of old and clunky. And then I played Dishonored 2, and man, it's a glow up. Like, it's so much better.
This is so funny you say that. I just want to talk about this in general, but every single time most creators or developers make a game that have a fundamentally good idea, it's the second game that always just expands on it. Just like Death Stranding 2, everyone's saying that's amazing.
Yeah.
Uncharted 2.
Well, I felt that way about Horizon.
Horizon
right? Because
2, yeah,
for Horizon 1, I was like, I like the idea, the setting is cool, but I don't know about the story and all the gameplay elements and stuff. And I played 2, and I was like, okay, they don't have the best storytellers in the world, but man, this game looks amazing. It plays amazing. Like they absolutely delivered on the idea of the fantasy of being in that world, and it was amazing, right? And so same thing in Dishonored 2. I was like, oh man, I love the setting. The gameplay is so much better. smoother. The
Yeah.
fights are so much more visceral.
Same thing for
Huge glow up.
the Lord of the Rings game you were just talking about, Shadow of War, Shadow of Mordor. The second one was even more
Yeah.
acclaim.
Which, not to rant on Xbox the whole time, but sometimes that's why, Hi-Fi Rush comes out. You don't just cancel because Hi-Fi Rush 2 can actually deliver.
Probably would have been even better,
right?
yeah.
Because, and it doesn't always happen, but if you have a good team and they were just trying to like figure some stuff out, and
they get it.
And it's interesting how that happens with games because that doesn't always happen with books and movies.
I know.
Right? Like sometimes, like everyone's like, okay, the first one was the best.
Yeah,
right?
I agree. Yeah, so it is well because like movies sometimes feel self-contained even when you're making multiple movies.
Yeah.
But some examples are there, like Terminator 1 to 2. 2 was even better. They just grew on that. But then as a game, when you make a game, you use the base foundation to make the second game, and you just say, I already have the gameplay ideas, let's just tweak it because we thought about doing this, we couldn't get it in. That's why I have a feeling Cyberpunk 2 will be even better than, than 1.
And you're also getting a lot of feedback, right? Yeah. And I feel like that feedback is more constructive. Like, I think with movies, like, maybe this is just my personal opinion, but like we're not always able to give the most helpful feedback. Like we can be like, oh, that movie sucks or it's good, right?
Yeah.
But with video games, we can have a more detailed conversation as a consumer, be like, yeah, that game was pretty good, but like this was clunky.
They're
right?
also using the same technology. So in a movie, just as apples to apples comparison as much as I can, you might have a different director make the second movie, and then it'd be completely different and off tone.
Yeah, and the thing is, like in the game, you could have been like, "Hey, I wanted to do this, but my physics simulation couldn't handle it, and now I have better tech, so now we can actually do this."
Which is why something like Donkey Kong Bonanza, even though it isn't a sequel, it's a spiritual successor to not only Donkey Kong 64, but basically it's made by the same team that made Odyssey, so it feels like a sequel.
Yeah, but then you couldn't have done that in 2017.
Yeah, you couldn't have done that.
And with movies, it's not necessarily the same, right?
Yeah,
because like. I mean, yeah, you can make an argument between practical and CG effects, but it's not the same level of difference.
There's been 2 parts to Dune so far, right? Like I feel like Dune Part 2 wasn't really any better.
I didn't think it was necessarily better.
Yeah.
So again, I don't think there's a lot of examples of like the second one being better than the first one, and I think like a lot of authors too. Like when you're writing a book, and a lot of the movies we watch come from books, right? Yeah. Like agents are not just going to sign you. And because everyone's gonna be like, oh yeah, I have a 7-book series, but then most people are not gonna finish that, right? So most of the time, like you need to have a compelling first project that can be standalone. But if people are interested in it and they dig it, then you can further expand the story. Like Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, right? Like it was a relatively contained story, right? But
for her to have done that 7 times was kind of crazy.
Yeah. But if you think about it, like if she only released the first one, like it relatively stands alone, right? Like, but of course there's enough hooks there because like, it's not like the whole Voldemort story is complete, right? So then you can have more.
It's a journey,
right?
Throughout 7 books, not that each time it was a different era in the Hogwarts castle,
So I just kind of feel like with a book, and then I feel like by extension a movie, right? Because the movies are normally coming from the books. Like you have to make sure you deliver the first one, right? And so that's why a lot of times it feels like a more complete thing.
Pressure,
and I feel like with gaming, like it is a more like drawn out, iterative with a lot of variables. The process is way more complicated.
Yeah, and they leave it open. Like even though movies can be open ended, games. When you make a story, that if it sells well, why not make a sequel? Because you reduce the development time and cost. You're like, okay, people loved it. The first, like Gears of War 1, 2, and 3, they were made between 2 years apart, right? The fact that they just slightly improved the game, I was happy with the fact that,
And I guess now I think about it too, like with a book, like you can write the same book in the 50s, the 80s, the 2000s. Yeah, it's a different audience, so that's why the books look different, right?
Yeah.
With the movie, you can make a different movie, but it's not to the same extent as like a game made in 2000 versus 2010 versus 2020, right? So I just think like, and I know we've been on kind of a tangent, but it's just kind of interesting, how that's worked out.
Yeah.
So with, Dishonored 2, really I'm having a blast with it. So probably I will finish that one. Shadow of Mordor, it might take me a little bit longer to get back to it, I should say. Then I just started playing Assassin's Creed Shadow today, actually.
On what system?
I'm on the Xbox. So I picked it up on Amazon for $50. So I was like, yeah, that's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting. I would want to know your opinion of this versus when Ghost of Yotei comes out.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about it. I was like, hey, it's kind of close, like for me, because if I beat this, I'll probably beat it like almost right before Ghost of Yotei comes out because
Yeah.
it's a pretty game, a big game. I'll give you my early impressions. I'm only like maybe an hour into the game. I actually really like it so far, and I think probably a part of it is I'm just super biased and I really like all the Japanese samurai stuff.
Yeah, you do.
And Nobunaga is like one of the coolest stories,
Yeah,
and
I like it.
it's kind of the establishment and the reunification and all that stuff. Like it's so cool, right? So I feel like the developers kind of did a good job. They're like, okay, what's a really interesting time period, and they just went for it.
Yeah.
And the fact that they have like Yasuke or whatever, the
Yes.
Black Samurai, like I actually don't think it's that weird.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. I mean, like I liked Afro Samurai, so like I don't think it's that weird to really focus on him. And I think the gameplay is really good. It's nothing. It's an Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah.
But I think for me, when I played like Odyssey and Valhalla, they just seemed so bloated and so not complicated, but there was just like a lot of stuff going on and moving parts. I would even say overwhelming because like there's other games that are more complicated. It just felt like there was too much going on, and like I just wanted something a little less, just a little more simplified, right? Like, and so far I haven't felt that way with Assassin's Creed, Shadows. So I'm probably going to focus on that game a bit more. And then Call of Duty World War II has actually, been kind of fun to play because it feels so different than the new ones. And it's kind of crazy that it's not even that old of a game. It's like 7, 8 years old. And it's so much more tactical, right? Like you can just run in. I didn't even realize this, but you have health packs. You don't have regenerating health. So literally you get like shot once or twice, half your health is gone, and you have to like hide, and it's way more cover based. So in a way, it feels like it obviously feels like Call of Duty, but it feels pretty different just because there's no regenerating health.
Okay.
So that's been kind of fun. So I feel like that's plenty to keep me busy, and then I'm picking up Donkey Kong Bonanza, right? So
Yeah.
that's gonna keep me busy for a while.
I've been playing. I finally beat Ninja Gaiden Black 2. Thank God, this game took me forever. I've been playing like 30 minutes.
I know we were just talking about this earlier before our podcast and how brutal the ending was for you.
And I played it on like the normal difficulty, which is actually easier than what normal used to be when the game released. But the last 3 chapters was insane because I went from 2 bosses in like chapter 15 to like 3 or 4 in chapter 16 to 5 or 6 in chapter 17, and it just wouldn't end. And I was getting so tired. I was like, dude, like. Thank God I had a lot of health items because by the end I was giving up to the point where like I'm not even trying to dodge anymore. I just want to hit, get hit, hit, get hit, hit, get hit. Like I'm done parrying and blocking. I give up.
I feel like that was that generation though, right? Like I feel like nowadays you don't see games that have that crazy of a ramp up, right? Because it's supposed to be like a better, smoother experience for people. But now it's like if you beat this game, it's a badge of honor because
on its quote unquote normal difficulty,
and it's like with like Dark Souls and Bloodborne and all those games, like they're hard from the get go. But like I feel like a lot of games from the 360 PS3 generation, like they would kind of ramp up over time, and then in the end, it's like they're like, hey, if you really want to beat the 10th level, you're gonna have to prove it to us.
Yeah,
I even remember with like a game like Resistance 2, like I remember it was like, oh, it's not bad.
Yeah,
and then in the end,
it was like
it's like every possible alien is going, and I want to say I was like going up like some staircase or something like that, and it was just so many aliens, and I was like, all right, so this whole time you're just like, oh, we'll throw 2 aliens, 3 aliens, 4 aliens. Now it's like, just send everything in.
And the one thing I liked about Resistance 2 is the way they pay it off for you is they give you a bunch of alien powers, and then you just blow through everything, and it's like, okay, like there's a payoff to it. With Ninja Gaiden, I can imagine
throw everything at you.
And then you verse a boss that's so massive at the end. You're like, dude, and it has 2 forms, and you're like, what is this?
The second form is the best.
It's so insane. Yeah, this thing is massive. Looks like the thing from that one Dragon Ball Z movie. I can't even remember what the thing was called. And it's just zipping through. It's like, and I'm like, okay, like insane, too much. But I enjoyed it for what it is. I hope.
I remember when I was playing that guy. I actually did think that guy was the hardest. I thought the bad guy who resurrects like 50 times.
Oh my
I thought his fight
God.
was way more annoying.
And they shoot in something at the end of the story, which I didn't like, is that when he comes back a second and third time, you actually not have pity for him, but you're like, you understand his death, that he tried he did what he could do, and then you take a sword and then like pay respects to him, even though he was my enemy. It's like, where did this come from? You hated this guy. He tried to kill your dad. And by the way, the game ends without you knowing what happened to your dad. Like, you have no idea what happened to your dad.
I actually forgot about his dad, to be honest. I forgot that was even a part of the story. Like, that story is just so ridiculous. It's just meant for you to get from, like, room 1 to room 2 to room 3, you know?
That's what it is.
And that's just that generation and, like, that type of game, you know? It's like, let's just make it fun.
Like, okay, I'm not gonna lie. This game looks so damn beautiful in Unreal Engine 5. Like, I can't stop looking at this game.
It's so good looking.
And some of the women, I'm not gonna lie, there's a little too much fan service in this game.
This is like the original Stellar Blade.
Yeah, original Stellar Blade, right? But I would say this, and I hope they've changed this up now in terms of design, because it's been 2 decades. I hope Ninja Gaiden 4 isn't like this. I don't think it will be, because this isn't a core Ninja Gaiden game.
It's also Platinum Games, you know.
Well, they're also introducing difficulty options now in Ninja Gaiden 4, so I'm looking forward to that and actually playing it. And I hope it's like a lengthy game, but again, it gives me the option to play at my own comfort. So again, I know I've said this before, I want to get into Lies of P now that there's difficulty options, and people are enjoying it for what it is. But I just want to enjoy Ninja Gaiden 4. I like the gameplay. I like doing the...
I get what you mean. Like, after a while, sometimes, like, you just don't want a crazy challenge.
Yeah, I just don't want to challenge.
Like, you know me, I normally play everything on hard mode. But, like, when I was playing Dishonored and even Call of Duty World War II, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to play the normal mode. You know, and even with Shadows, it's like, I don't have to beat every game on hard mode, because then at a certain point, it just gets exhausting.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. So, beat it, played it, had fun. Now I've been deciding between 2 games, so I just picked up Donkey Kong Bonanza, but because I started Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga just before, I think I'm going to try to get through it. It's a 17-hour game.
So I actually don't know anything about that game.
So this is the precursor to Mario and Luigi Brothership. So this is the very first one that came out on Game Boy Advance. This was like the very first attempt 20 years ago. So it plays very similarly, but this game, because it's so much older, Brothership streamlined the controls. So people have complained that for the one on Switch, you can no longer press B to have Luigi jump. It's all just designated to one button now. But in this game, it's difficult because you have to be aware of both characters jumping by pressing A and B while you're traversing the world. And it makes it somewhat difficult because then you have multiple actions you can do, like high jumps, spin jumps, and then you have to press multiple buttons. So it gets, I'm not gonna lie, this game's a little cumbersome. And if I can't play it for the next couple of hours without it being a pain, I might switch to Donkey Kong Bonanza. But I like to feel this game's interesting for that era, and it's a true RPG. It's not complex RPG, but there's mechanics there. There's a nice story. It's really funny. It's not something that I would have expected from
like kind of like quirky funny.
Yeah, quirky funny. I'm like, there's a good dialogue. There's good cheesy dialogue in here, and I love that, especially for a Mario and Luigi game. And it looks that art. It just looks so beautiful.
So what made you decide to play this one, like as opposed to the
I just wanted to get an idea of why people were complaining about the new one. I'm like, okay, so let me go back to the first one and just see how it is. And there's multiple. For those that don't know, there's like 7 iterations of this game from GBA all the way to the 3DS. There's multiple. There's like
the same game?
Not the same game. They've made like 5 sequels.
How have I never known about any of these games?
So my goal is to play all of them one day. Just want to start with this one.
Do they like sell well, or are they just kind of like niche?
I think most of them have sold at max 1 to 2 million copies. And I think Brothership is probably the highest selling at 2 million about. So again, another thing with Nintendo is that they've let this freaking series go on for that long. They
didn't just kill it.
So I'll see if I finish this. If after 5 hours or so I'm just not feeling it, I will switch to Donkey Kong Bonanza. But I am digging the vibe here a bit. It's nice to just play every night, 30, 40 minutes. And it's not like a Final Fantasy RPG. It's not like I'm playing this game.
It's
there's
not like
so much to remember.
That's so dense.
Yeah, and I don't have to manage a bunch of inventory and assets. It's just like, okay, have fun with the story.
Yeah, sometimes after a long day, that's all you want, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess that brings up Donkey Kong Bonanza, right? Like, we've talked a little bit about it, but what's the open critic on that one? I think a lot of people have been giving it 10s, right?
Yeah, it's at a 91. So Mario Odyssey, I think, was at a 97. So, like,
really,
critically, this game hasn't been doing as good. But the crazier thing is that a lot of the pundits are saying that this is better than Odyssey.
How does that work out, huh?
I know, this is like weird.
Well, I know, like, sometimes we can't always like do an apples to apples comparison, like between generations, because like obviously like a game can be like a 10 out of 10 like 20 years ago, and like now it's like a 5 out of 10, right? Because like, you know, things change. But Yeah, that's kind of weird because I would have thought this game would have scored like a 95 or
That's what
96.
I
I
was
felt like
thinking.
everyone was giving it a 10 out of 10. Like,
Yeah.
what were people
I
criticizing the game
think
for?
some small things were like the bot for most of it, the bosses are just a little too easy. The post game is amazing
Yeah,
and
but
it
like,
ramps up.
wasn't Odyssey's bosses kind of
They
easy
were, but
too?
somehow the beginning of this game is even easier than
Oh,
Odyssey.
I see. Okay.
And then there are performance issues because you're destroying so much
Yeah.
that like there's going to be dips, but it still runs at 60. But because it uses a double buffer VSync, when there are dips, it doesn't use VRR; it goes straight to 30 FPS, so it can be a little
So slow
jarring.
jarring, yeah.
So those are the only two things. But for the most part, everyone's saying the post game is so amazing actually for this game, and there's some people are directly comparing to Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of insane, and it's a 20-hour game, which is more girthy than LOL
Girthy with Donkey Kong.
than Mario Odyssey. And the one comparison you can directly make is this made by the same team that made
Oh,
Odyssey, and that's only. By the way, I know this is long, but 8 years, I get that. But if it's the same team, the apples to apples comparison I think I can make is they've used not only new technology to create this because they started out the on Switch One, they switched over to Switch Two, and they've shown some direct footage on how it looked on Switch One
oh,
versus
really?
Switch Two.
Is it pretty significant difference?
Yes, a significant difference. A lot more foliage, a lot more going on in the backgrounds. So it's like, okay, I'm
Yeah, I
glad
mean,
that
I
they
feel
did
like
that.
that probably made the development time go up because I would imagine for a while Nintendo was probably thinking, "Hey, can we make it Switch One and Switch
Yeah,
2?"
hundred
And then
percent.
eventually they're like, "Nah, we have to just make it Switch 2 only."
Yeah,
And also, you have to think about like how much time is it going to take in pre-production and things like that, right? Because yeah, Donkey Kong has been there for a while, right? And it like has a lot of similarities to Mario, but in a way, you are resurrecting a franchise, right?
yeah.
And like we've had 2D Donkey Kong in like the Wii U and Switch era, but no 3D Donkey Kong for a
Yeah,
long
for a
time,
long
right?
time,
And
it's
the
been.
fact that you were able to take that franchise and elevate it to such a high level that now you're comparing it to Zelda. I mean, this is a massive success for Nintendo because
Yeah,
now you just like built a new pillar for yourself,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
and
this is what I love about Nintendo, right? Like, you built your pillar there. Like now you're also building a pillar with Metroid. Like this is what you do,
well,
right?
so we should have seen the writing a little bit because in the last 5 years, you had Nintendo make this Donkey Kong Land at Universal. They redesigned Donkey Kong in the new Super Mario Bros. Game. And then what else did they did? One other thing with Donkey Kong, but like
Yeah.
they've been doing so much that it should have.
And Donkey Kong played such a big role in the movie, right?
Yeah,
Like,
such a big role. So I'm not trying to say it's obvious that hey they were making a new game about Donkey Kong, but
yeah,
they've been marketing a lot
yeah.
better. And I also think that like based on like what they've released in the past, well, I don't know if this game will have long legs like Odyssey. Like Odyssey sold about 30 million units or slightly north of
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah, I
don't
mean, I don't think it's going to
know.
sell 30 million, but I think it also depends on, how, like, what other games are there, right? So for me right now, like, if you're getting a Switch 2, it's a
You have it's
no-brainer.
a no-brainer.
Like, Mario Kart is great, but, like, come on, Mario Kart's been Mario Kart for a while. Like, if you need a new game to really show you why you got a Switch 2, you're going to get Donkey Kong,
Yeah,
right?
and
And,
well, it's
like,
good.
the other games are all going to be on Switch 1,
Well,
right?
I almost wonder if this should have been the tie-in pack-in game for the bundle because again, we know that about 5 million units of the Switch 2 have been sold. We don't know how much of that were the bundle, but we can surmise maybe at least 3 million plus. I'm just guessing here. But if that many units of Mario Kart was sold and you're charging, you would think Donkey Kong Bonanza would have been the $80 game. Like it's kind of nuts that Mario Kart is the one.
Yeah, I think maybe they weren't thinking, people would love Donkey Kong this much, right? Because you know, for that to be the
It's not a
main
proven,
$80 game,
yeah,
like that is a lot that you're putting on the shoulders of kind of a new franchise,
yeah,
even
new
though it's not a
franchise,
new
yeah,
franchise, right? So I think maybe they didn't want to take that risk because Nintendo likes to play it safe more than anyone
yeah,
else,
that's
right?
true. And they were still charging 70 for this, which is still a lot. That which
So
is how much they charge for Tears of the Kingdom.
right? So in a way, it's kind of a win-win for them, right? Especially
Yeah,
if they thought originally this was going to be a Switch One game. So, but no, I mean, this is what I have to give Nintendo credit for, right? And you know, to me, like sometimes it becomes a little tricky to keep track of like what's an alive or dead franchise for Nintendo because of like Super Smash, right? Because everybody's in there,
yeah,
right? But yeah, like some of those franchises, like if you don't think about Super Smash, like they're kind of dead, right? Like
yeah.
I mean, there might be some action going on, but not a ton. Like, what's going on with Star Fox,
Yeah, I
right?
haven't seen it in a long time.
Nothing for
I
a
would
long
love to.
time. And then with
Or
Kirby, I know they had a game on the Switch,
yeah,
right? But like,
and it did well. Five
yeah,
million units sold.
yeah, but it's not like you're getting a ton of action there.
Yeah,
What's going on with Icarus,
Icarus.
right?
What's going with Captain Falcon?
Yeah. So a lot of those, there's a lot of things that like we still talk about and think about, but really they kind of have been like dead or quiet franchises for a while. And so I never thought about it, but like, yeah, Donkey Kong's been kind of a quiet franchise for a long time, but it hasn't necessarily felt that way, right?
Yeah, it
Because of
hasn't.
Mario. So I think this is just a genius
Yeah, I think
thing,
it was genius. It's
and I have a feeling the next thing they're going to try and make a big pillar is Yoshi, not Yoshi, Kirby,
I
right?
was yeah, and I feel like they started with Kirby. Like there was 3 to 4 Kirby games on the Switch, one, and I actually didn't realize that till a couple months
Right?
ago, and I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
like
And I think probably some of our viewers are probably going to think, hey, our listeners are going to be like, Kirby's always been a big thing. But when I
uh,
say big, like, for Nintendo, like you define it in a different way. Like 5 million for Xbox or PlayStation is
it's
huge, right?
huge.
Or good. If it's Xbox especially, PlayStation, but for Nintendo, like when you're looking at games that are selling 30 to what,
Yeah,
50 or
30 to
60
60
million,
million. Yeah,
those are the big hits from
yeah,
them, right?
yeah.
And so to me, like, Kirby's been successful, right? But like, and this made a lot of money and people, buy, different, plushies and stuff like that. But I feel like, they're trying to make that into a 10 or $20 million, right? A 10 or 20 million units sold franchise.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. They're not. This is not major spoilers here, but so for those that have played Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, I think the opening scene is that you're jumping off and from the sky, and you're like kind of like arms and legs spread open, and you're like falling down right to the ground. There's a scene in the beginning of Donkey Kong where Donkey Kong does the same thing, and
Oh, that's
and
hilarious.
and I saw some people commenting online. They're calling it Tears of the Kongdom. I like
Oh my
instead of Tears
god.
of the Kingdom,
Oh my
and
god.
I'm like legit. And I looked at the scene. I'm like, yo, this is Tears of the
That's so funny.
Kongdom.
But no, that's what I love about Nintendo too, because that's what people loved about Tears of the Kingdom. Like they think about like some sort of way of manipulating physics to make like a fun gameplay element, and
Yeah,
then they just let people go wild with
yeah.
it. And if it messes up the gameplay stutters or there's frame rate issues, they'll try and do their best to fix it. But they just want you to have fun. Like
Yeah,
they don't want to like hold you up too much. They really want you to be creative. There's not a lot of games that just let you be creative,
yeah,
right? And that's one of the reasons I loved Halo, right? Like growing up, because like Halo lets you be creative, right?
yeah,
Like you could either approach it with like a sticky grenade, or you can like you watch these videos that like Mint Blitz does, and like the
yeah.
ways he kills people is like the most random, crazy thing, right?
Or
Because you let people be creative.
or literally, they created Forge and Halo 3
For
started
yeah,
right, and that was like literally
yeah, just
creativity.
let people be creative, right? And so some games really just grow well on that. And it's like you can't forget that, right? And I think like that's one of the things Halo's forgotten a little bit. Like
Yeah,
people love your games because you let people just be creative, right?
yeah,
But like Nintendo knows their audience and they know that that's what people want, right?
yeah,
And they're finding a way to do it with other franchises. Like how do we make Donkey Kong a more creative and immersive and engaged experience, right? And so that's great. And and I feel like Nintendo needed that, because now the conversation has changed so much, right? Like Switch 2 is already selling amazing, right? But there was a little bit of bad blood, right? Because people were thinking about the price and stuff. But, you give people enough hits, and that's going to die down a little bit more.
yeah,
It's still going to be upsetting and it's going to be unfortunate that some people are not going to be able to afford a Switch 2, right? Like, especially kids and, especially with our economy, and that's quite unfortunate. So I don't want to take that away. But I feel like, a lot of the conversation around Nintendo won't be as negative, right? Like you got this, and if you get at least one or two more hits, which they're going to have in the
which they
next year,
will.
right?
I
Like,
mean, they had to have a game that was system selling, right? A
yeah,
system seller, and this is it. And for those that are being left behind, look, when they eventually upgrade, I'm not just saying like, hey, oh, get a job. Or when you eventually upgrade to Switch 2, this will be your reason for
yeah,
it, right?
yeah, and I think especially with like this Nintendo and the Switch, I get it. Like, it really sucks. Like, if I was an 8-year-old kid, 9 year
Yeah,
old kid, and like I'm really asking my parents, and my parents might be in a difficult position, and they're trying their hardest to give it to me, but they can't.
yeah,
The games are so much more expensive. That sucks.
yeah,
At least with Game Pass, right? Like, you still play those Xbox games, you
yeah,
can stream on your phone. With Sony, eventually those games go on sale, and they do eventually end up on PlayStation Plus,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But Nintendo, there's no way around it,
yeah.
and
There's no
like
around
it's
it.
targeting kids and who are going to target parents. So I get how it's kind of scummy and it
Yeah,
sucks. But again, that's kind of Nintendo's business, and that's
yeah.
how they've always been, right? And that's just kind of the name of the
Nintendo's a bit
game.
greedy. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be honest.
And Disney does the same thing, right? They're
Yeah,
like kind of the
they charge
Disney
you
of the
actually a
gaming
premium.
world.
Yeah, they charge you a premium to enjoy some of the most popular content. It's like, don't you want to make it more accessible? No, we
Yeah.
want the most
But
of
I
our
mean, they
money.
are giving you people that it's part of people's childhood. It's an
Yeah,
integral part, right? Like how many parents really have to sacrifice to be able to take their kids to Disney. But
Yeah.
then at the same time, like that becomes a very integral experience for them, right?
Yeah.
And that's how Nintendo is with so many people growing up, right?
Yeah. I agree.
So I guess switching gears a bit, haha. A couple other things to talk about because I do feel like there's been a good amount of news. There was a Ghost of Yotei State of Play.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I was a little bit underwhelmed. I'll be honest with you. So the first state of play earlier this year got me hyped for it, just showing that brief trailer. But this just, it just seems more of the same. Like they're iterating on the game. Some of the gameplay looks a little more fluid, and the story overall is just you getting revenge. So I don't know. I just felt like even like when I looked at the 15-minute direct for Donkey Kong Bonanza, not to go back to it, and then I looked at this, I'm like, man, Nintendo did a way better job
Oh yeah,
showcasing their game versus this. So to go back to Ghost of Yotei, I'm getting it for sure when it comes out in October. And I think I haven't played Ghost of Tsushima, but I'm gonna start with this first, honestly, just for the fact that like we talk about sequels normally end up
Yeah.
being better. So maybe they just didn't show it off well. But other than that, I think some extra unique things they've added, which is the grappling hook kind of thing to grapple on to traverse. And the fact that now you can swap between weapons pretty quickly while fighting, plus the gun as well. Other than that, we know the boss battles will be there. One cool thing I liked is they added a new mode, a lo-fi mode, or Lofi mode, whatever you want to call it, where the director Samurai Champloo has curated music, and you can literally play it while traveling and traversing, but not fighting.
Yeah, I mean, I pre-ordered the game today, and yeah, I'm so basic. As soon as I was like lo-fi mode,
Yeah, lo-fi
with that director, I was like, you sold me. Because I love that. I listen to lo-fi all the time. I love Samurai Champloo. I love the Nujabee song from Samurai Champloo, and that in
Rest
a game.
In peace.
I know, right? Rest in peace. That sold me. Right away. I'm that basic.
Which I saw some people complain. They're like, "Why would you put a mode like this in this game?" And I think it's perfectly fine. Like you can turn it off if you don't.
It's your choice. I mean, I get it too because I was thinking about it too, and I was like, it's a revenge story, and so that's kind of more like dark and doesn't maybe fit totally with Lofi. But I was like, yeah, but who am I kidding? Like, I'm just gonna enjoy it. Like if I even playing like 20% of the game with that music in the background, like I'll be happy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So they're not saying that music is going to play when you're having big tense moments. It's just really just traversing and adventuring. So I'm like okay with that. If I'm traversing from place to place and the beam's big enough, I'd rather listen to that than just the wind howling.
Trying something different, and it's just a mode. It's not like that's the whole game. So,
and they're gonna have the black and white Kurosawa mode, which I'm not gonna plan.
I mean, not for me,
not
but
for
like
me, but
for me, I'm more into the lo-fi thing, but other people are gonna love the Kurosawa thing because he's very famous, right? So just the fact that they're including those options is great. Yeah, I guess.
Oh, they also didn't talk about the fact of multiplayer's coming back, so I don't know. I mean, a lot of people loved it.
Yeah.
So I don't
it's
know.
Very successful for them. Yeah, I guess maybe you had a different takeaway from you. I think when I first saw Ghost of Yotei, I was like, I don't know. This kind of sounds like an Assassin's Creed origin story of revenge and tracking people down. I don't know, new character, new plays, kind of weird. And so like I was excited for it, but I wasn't like crazy hyped. But for me, after like the new stuff, I feel like I've gotten enough that like my hype factor is up. I've pre-ordered it. I agree with you about a lot of the concerns you're having, and I think like to me this goes back to why even though I love Ghost of Tsushima, like I don't think it's a masterpiece. I think people gas that game up way too much.
I mean, to be fair,
I think a lot of people online talk about it like it's an easy 10 out of 10, if not a 9 out of 10. The game is an 8.5.
It's an 8.5. I mean, the Metacritic was at 8.5.
Yeah, and I think the Metacritic was spot on because the gameplay, like it doesn't actually give you that much freedom and flexibility, right? Because it was really frustrating to me that I had to change stances, to fight everyone, and I can understand like how that juggling can add another layer of tension and make things fun. But I like the way Doom, for instance, handles it because in Doom, like most of the enemies will have a specific weapon that shreds them or is really effective against them, especially in Eternal, right? But you can still get by without doing that, right? Like for instance, there's a Calco demon in like Doom Eternal, and if you shoot like a bullet into him and he explodes, it's a super easy way to kill him, right? But if you're in the middle of a crazy fight and there's so much going on and that thing is annoying the heck out of you, you can still kill it, right? You might have to overpower it with a big gun, right? But you can still kill it, right? But the reason I didn't like in Ghost of Tsushima as much is because I felt like I had to play the game the way the developers made me want to play the game. Because if I try to use a different short storage stance, it's just not viable at all, right? And in Doom Eternal, like it is viable. It's just the difference between being an average player and an expert player.
So I think that's the difference for this game, and unless I'm mistaken, it looks like the difference is there's no longer stances. You have different weapons, and each weapon is more effective against certain enemy
But
types.
like
But
my
doesn't
thing is,
mean
does it actually change the way the game works, right?
I don't
Because
know.
like for instance, like if I had a heavy in the original game, right, and I had to use like some sort of stance that was like more hard hitting, right? I still had to switch to that stance to fight that guy, and then now if there's a shield guy, I have to switch to a different stance. Now instead of switching stances, am I just switching a weapon
Yes.
but doing the exact same thing?
Well, you're
So
not
then
switching stances. You're switching weapons, but they show that it's very fast and agile to swap
yes,
between
yeah.
them.
So it's kind of like how God of War 3 was, right? Like you
Yes.
could switch between them quickly. But in God of War 3, it was fun because you could chain the different
Yeah.
weapons in a specific way to take you from being an average player to an expert player,
And I think
right?
you
So that's
might
that's
be able
how
to do that
that's
here.
how I like it when it's implemented,
Yeah.
right? But my fear is that this is the same gameplay but reskinned. Like
Yeah.
instead of giving me a different stance, you're making the sword model look different
Yeah.
and have different animations, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But if I can switch between the different weapons in a specific way of comboing in a certain way that will take me from being an average player to an expert player, like then I'm incentivized to experiment, be creative, to learn.
Yeah. And
And so that is more fun for
I
me.
think that's what they didn't do a good job of demonstrating in the state of play. And I only saw one section in the video. You should rewatch it, but I think you can do that. But I'm not going to be
Yeah.
say that's what you can do because
It
they
could
didn't
be
do a good job
it could be a
demonstrating
vertical
it.
slice.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
no, it's probably not.
Um,
That game is going to be
yeah.
polished.
But
But
if it is like that, I will actually enjoy this game more. That's why I've been holding off on Tsushima because I remember when you told me about that exact concern. I'm like, I don't want to play the game like that. I'm
yeah.
like, that
So
doesn't.
that's why I
That's not
didn't like
appealing.
it. And then yeah, you can like kind of expand into like being stealthy versus being actiony, but like I didn't really feel like it was that substantially different when I used like one tool over the other. And honestly, like I felt like I didn't need to be skilled at that game. I could just approach everyone with like the same technique, which was use this stance for this person, run away, wait for a second, and then come back. And it was like brainless. It was
Okay.
like I didn't really have to put an effort. And like other games, I feel like I have to really master, the tool set in order to do well and get by. But with that game, I was like, no, I'm just gonna like space myself away from everyone and just use the right stance. And if they're giving me a hard time, I just run away and come back. So like in a way, like I just was able to like land my way through the game, and some people might say you're playing the game wrong, but like to me, like again, that's why the difference between like an 8.5 game and a 9.5 game, right?
Fair.
Right?
I
Like,
mean, that tells me that the game is very strong for even if the gameplay was like that. And normally, gameplay is king. For you to still get that high of a rating, like it tells
well,
you
yeah,
that.
because so that's why when I first started playing Ghost of Tsushima, I was like, man, I don't know why people are gassing this game up so much. Like, I'm not feeling it, and I stopped, and I didn't play for years, and I was like, I do not know why people love this game. And then I forced myself to get back into it because I got like the DLC or whatever, and I think I got like the legendary
Icky
edition or
Island,
Icky
yeah.
Island. I was like, okay, I spent all this money, I should play it. And then I got a little bit farther in the story, and I was like, okay, I can see why people like it because the main story got more fleshed out. Now these side characters came in. The side character stories were really cool. And actually, if you did some of them and you unlocked like the other techniques, like I think there was like a fire technique or stuff, there was substantial changes to how you played the game. Like I think you got like a different air bow, different like technique with the sword that were like you had to do these legendary quests and it almost felt like a movie.
Hmm.
And then I was like, okay, I get it. I can see why it's all of the stuff outside of the beaten path. It's everything in culmination together
Hmm.
with the artistic style of the game and how you traverse and the wind and all. I get it now. But still, like I was like, I still don't feel like that gameplay, that sword combat is really that much better than like Assassin's Creed. Like honestly, like I kind of like playing Assassin's Creed more.
Hmm.
That's just like my personal opinion. So that's why like I'm hoping that this game makes that better, right? And again, like it might sound like I'm hard on the game, but like to me, an 8.5 game is still very good, right? So even if they deliver another 8.5, or even now they make it like a 9 game, like that's going to be terrific, right?
Wait.
And I think also for me, like when Ghost of Tsushima first came out, I was still kind of salty that they weren't making another Sucker Punch. No, what's it called? Infamous, right?
Mhm.
and so maybe that's why I was a little biased. But now I just kind of accepted the fact that they're not going to make another Infamous. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll go back to Infamous. I enjoyed one and two, and I liked the third one. Did I want more after that? Look, they looked at it from a financial perspective, and like I said, they just
yeah,
didn't sell well, right? And Sony's more acclimated to that aspect, not like
yeah.
Nintendo. Now, I like that they branched out. They are making a Ghost of Tsushima movie
Oh yeah,
directed by the person who made John Wick,
yeah.
Chad
Oh, that's a perfect,
Stahelski.
perfect combination.
And that's what people are saying. Like that's the perfect person to
Yeah.
pick for this type of. The action's gonna be
And the thing is, like,
gory.
we don't have that many great samurai stories and movies, right? Like, I know it just so happened Assassin's Creed Shadow came out this year, but like, other than that, like, what's really going on in the samurai space, right? Like,
Right.
I feel like that was really popping off in the 2000s, right? Like, even in anime, you had like Samurai 7, Samurai Champloo, right? And that's been kind of a niche, right? So I
Right.
feel like that's why Ghost of Tsushima just hit at the perfect time. It was it wasn't talking about Tokyo and Kyoto, right? So that was really cool as other
Yeah.
parts of Japanese history. So I think that's why it was such a success for them. So I'm excited for Ghost of Yotei. I think that might
Well,
actually be like my most excited game going into the fall. Um,
I just want to give a little shout out to Sucker Punch too. Now they've been consistent. We got two games on the PS4 from them,
yeah.
and now one on the PS5. Like, and they've
And
been
First
delivering.
Light was an expansion
Yeah.
to Infamous Second Son, but it was like a pretty sizable one too.
Yeah. So like, honestly, like in a span of 10 years, like three games, that's like really good.
Yeah.
I also
And they
just
were making the Sly games too before then, right? It's not
yeah.
like they weren't. They were
Well,
still
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
good on
They went
PS2.
Sly 1 through 3, Infamous 1, 2, then Infamous Second Sons, then
Did they
these
make
two.
Sly 4? I don't know who made Sly
No, they
4.
did
Was
not.
someone
That was
else?
Sanzaru. But what I will say too is like I think Ghost of Tsushima, the first one, right? Ghost of Tsushima, yeah, they sold about I think 9 to 10 million units,
That's a
which
huge
is
hit.
pretty huge. And again, for something I don't know if I mentioned this, but the multiplayer aspect of this thing, it hasn't been announced whether that's coming back. I know a lot of people loved it. It was a cooperative mode, and it was just like mini side missions
Yeah.
kind of thing. It wasn't a live service game
Yeah,
by
I
any
don't
stretch.
think it's going to come back because if you think about it, if development has become harder in the PS5 than the PS4, and
Yeah, I
they
don't
had to release
anticipate.
this years after, it was at least a year, maybe
It
two
was a
years.
year, about a year after the game came
Yeah,
out.
so that means that they weren't able to get all that in for the original release of the game, right? So
Yeah.
like, what makes you think that like they're going to be able to make it for the
Yeah.
PS5? Maybe maybe if they already have the backbone, they could do it, but I just
But
don't get that feeling.
I
And
don't either.
they would have
It's
announced
like
it already.
the same thing with Last of Us. When Last of Us came out, they had a multiplayer mode, and when Part 2 came out, I was like, "What about factions?" And then they never said anything for
Yeah,
years. I have a feeling this probably won't, and I'm okay if it doesn't. It's not like I'd rather I enjoy more single player games now, so I'm okay with that. I just wanted to point that out. So
yeah. So, and I guess in other kind of Xbox Sony related news, Helldivers 2 is now coming on the Xbox.
Gee.
So I did not expect that.
I didn't either. I just thought for sure like this was a game that was set in stone, PC, PlayStation. But it's funny because this game has been announced for August 26th, which is the exact day Gears of War Reload is coming on
I know,
PlayStation.
right? But why is Sony doing that? Like, it's just so
Yeah.
strange to me.
Like, did they do this like on
Like, are they
purpose?
trying to dull the attention Xbox is getting by doing the opposite? Like,
Yeah, do they
oh
not want
yeah, like
people?
you're giving us a Gears, well, we can give you, Helldivers.
Yeah,
Like, Microsoft, you're not doing anything special. You're just giving us Gears.
yeah.
We have a Helldivers we can give you. It's like it's no big deal,
That's a
You give
strange
us
one.
Halo. Oh, we'll just release some other game on the same day for you guys because we can just hand them out like they're nothing. So like in a
What would
weird,
be Ape Escape?
so it kind of feels like in a way you're like devaluing Gears, but at the same time, if you devalue the importance of your competitor's game coming to you, won't you sell less of the
Yeah.
competitor's
Well,
game?
so Sony gets a 30% cut of every game that they sell on their platform. So it's like, why would you want to diminish this? Let them get their problem. You get your small cut. You didn't need to develop the game at all. You didn't do anything for them.
It's
They made
just
the game.
it's just a strange
It is
decision.
weird. Why that date?
I don't know if it's them being petty or what.
Unless it was a pure coincidence, right? Like they both planned it and both just ended up in that day. But you can move that like 1, 2 days, 1 week apart.
Yeah. So,
I think it's cool because when they announced it, they had the Halo music in the background,
yeah.
and they showed Master Chief. Like, okay, that's a nice little touch. That out of all things, they first thought that like the Master Chief Halo touch should
Yeah,
be
I
added
mean
to
it
that.
makes sense because the idea is basically ODST, right? Like
Yeah, it's ODST.
basically
They look like ODST.
I know. Right?
I mean, I actually would consider playing the game just to see how it looks with Master Chief. Like, I'm thinking about it. I don't know if I will.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about that, like, I own it, but only on Steam, and so I don't really play on my laptop because it's kind of old, so I would play on my ROG, and it hasn't been the best experience for me on the ROG,
Yeah,
so, and I was being too cheap to just pay for PlayStation Plus, so I didn't buy it on the PlayStation, so all said, I might buy it on the Xbox again if it comes out.
yeah,
It's $40, so it's not super expensive. And honestly, if
yeah,
that went on sale for like 30 or
yeah. I would
something,
consider
25,
it.
it's not bad.
I mean, they have made a lot of updates since the game came out. It's been over a year, so like, there's a lot more factions and stuff, and enemy types. Might be worth playing it now. Actually, I'm sure the community has kind of dropped, but like once
Yeah,
Xbox comes
yeah,
out,
it's dropped, but it hasn't died.
yeah.
It's just interesting to me because I'm just wondering what made Sony decide to do
The question
this.
is, was it Sony? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, well,
The
because they're not a first party studio, right? Is it
Yeah,
Arrowhead or
Arrowhead,
yeah?
and they've already, I think, announced that their next game is not going to be exclusive. They're going multi-platform in their next game. So I don't. I think, not to say there's bad blood. There's tension there clearly between the studio and
Yeah, I've
Sony.
heard. Yeah,
They were already pissed that Sony was requiring PSN accounts for regions that didn't support it, and they couldn't get their game to other regions and people. So I think something's going on there clearly, and so they made a force. So Sony's hand. I just think that's probably what
yeah. That
happened.
makes me curious too about like the future of Death Stranding 2, right?
Oh, that
Because
game's gonna come to Xbox for
right,
sure.
because the first one did. I guess it's just a matter of when,
Yeah, it's
right?
a matter of one. And trust me, if I'm Kojima, you want as many people as possible to enjoy that game.
Yeah.
That's not a thing now that you need to gate to Sony because you have to survive. This first game did
Yeah.
good enough.
And the thing is, I think most people, developers, they just want as many people to play their game, right? So,
Yeah,
like, if at any point possible they can release on multiple platforms, they will,
they
right?
will.
I think that's just how most people feel. And second, it's probably not very hard to switch between the PS5 and the Xbox as
Yeah,
compared to the 360 and PS3.
100%.
And really, like, yeah, you have like 20 or 30 million people on Xbox, so it's like, no, it's not a ton. But if you think about it, like, there's a subset of that population that are very hardcore gamers, right?
Yeah,
Like, they are people who have stuck with Xbox because they love Xbox games. They're probably into more hardcore games
yeah.
like shooters, RPGs, things like that. And it's probably like the same 2, 3 million people on Xbox who are buying up a lot of the same stuff,
I
right?
mean, honestly, if you can get just 10% of that player base, that's like
Yeah,
2 million
yeah.
people.
Why not?
That's
That's
a
like a
lot.
100 million, right?
Yeah. That's what I'd be aiming for, and get it on PC as well. And then you add all those extra features on PC, like ultra wide support and all that, and FSR and or DLSS. Bro, like, that will be enough for him to satisfy himself. Because I don't know if he'll make a third part, and I could see him finally pivoting to something new. He's also been Kojima himself has also proclaimed he wants to start making films eventually before
Yeah.
he stops with this process. He's in his 60s, so he's old or getting older, so I could see him pivoting to that. And we don't know what OD is. We don't know if that's been canceled now with Xbox, etc. But
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
yeah, we'll see. I'm just, from what I'm hearing with Death Stranding, I think that's good too. But yeah, this has all around been interesting. So I think Helldivers coming to Xbox. I didn't expect this. I would have said a year ago that would never happen,
Yeah.
and I'm
I mean, I had a feeling that like it might because there was a lot of noise around Xbox people who wanted it. It seemed like, everyone was like, why can't we just bring everyone together? Like, I feel like Helldivers was one of the rare moments in gaming when it was just like positivity all around. And
um,
even when there was some of that negativity because of the PSN accounts and stuff like that, like it was able to kind of get flipped, right?
yeah,
So,
but it's funny. Helldivers 1 didn't come to Xbox. So it's so funny that you're just introducing the second part of a game to an ecosystem
yeah.
that's never had the
Well, I
first one.
think, but honestly, like I don't know if you heard about it, but I don't think I ever heard of Helldivers One. Like
I
I
didn't.
didn't really know
I
anything
bought
about
it.
it. So maybe I just wasn't.
It's just top down. It's not a third person behind the back.
Maybe
It's
that's
just
why I
top down.
didn't like know about it because that's not really a genre I pay much attention to because it's not for me.
But it's literally the same, and it's really fun. It just
So
wasn't big. So yeah, some other news that definitely want to talk about is Neil Druckmann for show. The OG gangsta Last of Us. He ain't gonna be producing season 3 or writing or directing any episodes. Not to say that he directed a lot on season 2. He actually only helped direct one episode. I didn't even know
uh,
that. And
so
I
yeah,
did
I wonder.
confirm that the other writer, that lady, I'm forgetting her name with the blonde hair, she is the co-writer of the game as well.
Oh, okay.
So I did confirm that. So she's been doing more of the heavy lifting. But Neil said specifically this has kind of taken not a toll, but
Is
he
that
can't man.
Amy? Well, didn't she
Yeah,
go?
Amy.
Oh, I thought she was working on that. That's no. Captain America game.
No, not Amy. Sorry. The co-writer of Last of Us. I'm already forgetting her name.
That's
but
fine.
You see her in the interviews when you watch the show. But the main thing is that with Neil, he basically said that he needs to be able to manage his responsibilities as the studio head and a co-writer of her what's the game? Intergalactic. So 4 years in, the game could come out in another year, 2 years.
Especially if he's really gonna focus all of his attention on it.
And he's also serving as a producer on a second game that the studio has been working on.
Oh.
He specifically mentioned that they're giving a chance to like younger members of their studio and new people that haven't really been able to really write and direct their own game before, and he's just helping them out on a day-to-day basis.
So I don't think that would be Last of Us 3. I don't think Sony would allow the reins of something that big to go into a relatively new person's head.
I think it's Uncharted spinoff.
Probably. That makes sense.
That makes the most sense. Like
unless someone wants to bring back Jack and Daxter around.
Doubt it. But I think it's Uncharted spinoff. It makes sense because they were definitely working on it internally with Studio Bend. And then they probably brought it in-house, and now they're letting people just tool with it.
Yeah.
And that's a game that you can take 5 or 10 years
working. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I really feel about Neil Druckmann, like, just focusing on games now. Like, I think it's fine, right? I imagine with a TV show, he's probably kind of given his input earlier. Like, I would think they already have a lot of the script done for the 3rd season, so it's just a matter of filming it.
Just filming it.
So I think that's fine. I think, you don't want to get too distracted or have too much on your plate, right? Like, look at George R. R. Martin. Like, the guy is working on so many things.
Yeah, shows, games
related to Game of Thrones, right? That like he's not able to finish the Winds of Winter, and everyone's upset about him for that. So I think it's probably a good thing overall. Is there going to be a drop off to the quality of season 3?
I don't think so, because again,
probably not.
He only directed 1 episode, and I think the original writer, he still has the other co-writer.
I think the story is what it is. Like, I think, it's not like, someone screwed up on season 2. Like, I just think it was inevitable. Like, people love Last of Us 1 so much more than Last of Us 2.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I also think that 1 episode he directed on season 2 actually ended up being the best episode. It was episode 6, I think, which was near the end.
Which one that was, but
so it's like, okay, fine. Maybe season 3 doesn't end up being as good as season 1, which is fine, but it's not like season 2 was.
But the thing is, like, better. Would you rather have the next game have more attention from Neil Druckmann and therefore be better, or would you rather have a better Last of Us season 3?
Like the show? No, absolutely not. I would rather have a better new game.
Maybe it was a hypothetical question.
I mean, I don't think any of his fan base would want that either.
Probably not.
They've already played through it, and now they just added an update to Last of Us Part 2 called Chronological Mode.
Oh, actually, I don't know if I messaged you about that, but after I found out about that, I was like, oh man, I was actually tempted to play it again. And
this is why I waited 10 years to play the game. I haven't played it yet.
I'm not gonna lie, I was actually tempted to play it again because I was like, man, I remember like the story felt really confusing for me when I played Last of Us Part 2, especially since I didn't beat the first one before. I only played like half of it, and now I'm like, oh man, if I played it chronological, would I just have a totally different feel of this game? I don't know.
But here's the thing. You give me so much shit for not playing games for years, and then you get an update.
You're telling me.
Wait, you get an update 5 years later. You're like, oh, you never. I wait for updates like this.
Okay, you're telling me within the first year of Last of Us 2 coming out, you knew that there was going to be 10 re-releases and a chronological mode coming out.
In the back of my head, I'm like, no I know 5 years from now we're getting a big update.
So the reason that surprises me is like, I think after you've been gaming for like at least I feel like I've been gaming for like 2 decades, God, right? Yeah. I feel like your top 10 is pretty cemented, right? And it's kind of hard for anything to break into your top 10. But like for me, the fact that like I probably would put Last of Us, and Tears of the Kingdom in there, right? Like that's a huge deal, right? Like it's not often that a game has that profound of an effect. So I was like, man, you really got to play this, And I mean, I'm probably one of the few people who like Last of Us 2 better, but that was mostly because I never beat the first one. So Last of Us 2 was like my first proper Last of Us experience.
Not beat, but you did play Last of Us Part 1 first still.
I did, yeah.
Played half of it. You borrowed it from Saeed, and I remember how far you got.
No. Not Last of Us. What I did was I went to Redbox, okay? And I rented the game for a weekend, and I tried to play as much as I could on a weekend. That's what it was. And I got up to the part right before they got hit by a car.
Yeah. I was like halfway.
Yeah, maybe that was the halfway mark. But then I also think that because I was trying to make the most of my money, right? I played so much of it and made myself miserable, right? Like forcing myself to beat this red box rental in 3 days, and I couldn't because the game was kind of hard too. That I just had a sour taste in my mind about Last of Us.
I remember
And then I
that.
played Last of Us 2, and I was like, oh my god, this game is amazing. What's wrong with me?
And which
And
you
then
played
I
during the
went back and played
pandemic.
Last of Us Remastered.
Yeah, I remember, and that was during the pandemic because you were so in love. You're like, this game, I don't know what people are talking about, and then as you beat Last of Us Part 2, you're like, this game is
Oh,
amazing.
I know, I know. I totally flipped on that one. So,
Yeah,
but no, I probably won't replay it just because I have a lot of other stuff on my plate. But like, honestly, if there's another like quiet season for me and I'm kind of bored, maybe
yeah. Fair enough. So
Okay, and I guess like a couple other things, just rounding things out. I wanted to just briefly mention the virtuous layoffs. I don't know if you heard about that.
yeah, I have
Um, I mean, I get why they would cut people. Like maybe they were like done with some projects and stuff like that,
maybe.
and that's why they're downsizing. But it just felt like weird timing, because I was like, man, like virtuous has been like kind of been on a tear,
They
right?
have, but you have to realize Virtuos is huge. So they have multiple studios under them, and the specific studio that got cut, I don't know if they worked on Oblivion or not. I don't think they
Mm.
did. So this is kind of par for the course because they
They're
have like
just
two.
downsizing.
They're designed because they have like 2,000 employees or something like that.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I guess I always just pictured Virtuos as like it's like 200-300 member
yeah, that's
team,
what I thought.
and I was like, how are they doing all the things that they're doing?
Yeah,
And I never realized. But it's kind of crazy to think that they are these independent teams that like just contract out and help other teams make their games,
yeah,
like Certain Affinity too,
yeah,
and they're just absolutely massive.
yeah. I know.
It's just absolutely massive, and who would know?
And so I think that's what's changed within the video game industry is that it's not viable to start your own studio hoping you're getting millions of dollars in seeding and funding. So what now companies have cropped up in the last 15 years, basically contracting and consulting companies. And they say, we can contract
I'll
six
make your
months of
game
work.
for you.
Yeah, well, we can contract 6 months or 1 year of work for you, or we can get you to the finish line. And then Microsoft, because they're so known for especially the Halo studios, we'll cut a bunch of people and we'll save $100 million, just get them to the finish line and get them integrated. And now Virtuos, I will say, has done such a great job because they've done Oblivion, they're doing Metal Gear, they've helped on so many other games in the last 2 years. I'm already forgetting off the top of my head, but they seem like they've kind of got their shit together. It's kind of
Yeah.
crazy. And like there was rumors that Virtuos was working on a ton of games in the last 3 years, and everyone's like, "There's no way they've not output anything." And now they're outputting an
Right?
insane
Yeah.
amount of stuff.
It's like interesting how like they've just become like the problem fixers.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's just really fascinating.
They were also, I think, working with Sony on a game, and I'm forgetting what now. Other than Metal Gear, it was like something.
Were they the people who were working on? No, they're not the people who were working on Knights of the Old Republic, are they? That's someone else.
No, that's
That's
not
Saber
them.
Interactive, right?
Yeah, that's Saber.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, I guess at first I was kind of really surprised to hear that, but this is good. This is why I talked to you about it because you're plugged into things better than me, and I had no idea they were that massive. That's crazy. So okay,
They've also worked on like Hogwarts Legacy, Call of Duty,
Oh my
Horizon Zero
God,
Dawn,
everything,
Mortal Kombat
everything.
1. They also are
they have
making.
like three
they're also-
people that are
they're-
like they have teams of like 3-4 people,
They
and each
could.
of them are like involved in every game.
They
like,
could, and they're also working on Cyberpunk 2077 Update 2.3,
oh my God.
which I don't know if you just saw the trailer for. They're adding new cars, new quests to get the cars, and a whole bunch of quality of life improvements. So the fact that Virtuos is the one that just like again came in and CG Projekt was like, yeah, here, take our tool set and just add some quick updates. It's like that's
It's
crazy.
yeah. So, all right, cool stuff. I guess a couple other things for us to talk about. I know we've been really focusing on a lot of games. I was thinking maybe we could talk about some TV shows or movies
Yeah.
we've watched. Unless there's any other gaming news you think is worth covering. I think we covered all the
I think we
highlights.
covered it.
So I think, especially since I was traveling a lot, I brought my iPad along with me, and I just watched a whole bunch of stuff. And really, I was watching a lot of stuff on Apple TV. And
can I make one correction real quick? Virtuos actually employs 4,200 people across the world.
Oh my God!
So they only laid off 200, and I'm not saying that's it's like a good thing. I'm just saying that like in context to.
I mean, the context is really important for that one because, God,
all across, there's a lot.
Half a percent.
They're headquartered in Singapore, but this is even crazier. So they have probably a lot of people there, but they have people contracted all across the world. So crazy stuff.
Wow, I knew nothing about that. 4,200 is massive. Isn't Microsoft like 20,000 people? So like That's like a fifth
Fifth.
of all of Activision and Blizzard and
I didn't realize
Bethesda.
they grew that big.
Man, they're massive. All right.
Sorry.
Anyways, yeah, I was just talking about my experience with Apple TV. Because man, like, I didn't realize how much stuff they had, and like, it's actually a lot of really good stuff. So I finished watching Slow Horses. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one. It's kind of like the big one of the big TV shows that has like 4 seasons. It's a British show. It's about like spies and stuff, so it kind of has like a James Bond vibe. But the interesting thing is, it's like all of the screw ups and all the rejects and all the fuck ups, and how terrible they are. They get basically they don't get kicked out of the equivalent of the FBI. They get put into the slow horses because they're slow, right? And basically, these people, they're just trying to make their life miserable until they quit. But it's just them basically trying to be FBI agents, but they suck at their jobs. And then one person has to clean up their mess. So it's actually really funny, and it's like just kind of like, a lot of British shows have like this like different type of humor, right? It's like kind of dry humor. It's not like people just like saying ridiculous things. It's just kind of clever and witty. So I actually enjoyed the show. I think it's a lot of plot armor, a lot of plot holes, things like that. But I will give it to them. Like sometimes like big characters will die out of nowhere. You wouldn't expect it. So I it's kind of a weird show for me because it's not a show I would think I would fall in love with, because I could think about like this thing where it could have been better with the writing or this or that. But it's just really fun. So like I had a blast, and I finished 3 seasons while I was away. But again, like each season's only like 6 episodes, not that bad.
It's not bad.
So I finished all of that. I started watching the new season of Foundation. I don't know if you.
Still haven't started yet.
Oh, okay. Well, season 3 is amazing. I think IGN gave it a 9 out of 10, and I've only seen the first episode and a half, but man, it is really good. Like, CGI looks amazing. Like, just the scale, everything. The story seems promising. There's tension. The pacing is fairly good. Like, God, like Foundation is a really good show, and I feel like no one is ever talking about this show.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. So I remember you telling me about the premise of the show, and like I definitely want to.
Yeah, Foundation is truly a show that gets better with each season. Like I feel like in the first season, it just felt like I was sitting in a lecture room. There was just like a lot of over explaining about some like complicated stuff, and it was kind of hard to get through the first season until like near the end, and then like things started coming together.
Okay.
But season 2, you could definitely see the upward trajectory, and by all means, it looks like season 3 is having an even better, upward trajectory. So honestly, Foundation is kind of like one of my favorite shows right now, and I'm really excited for the whole show. It's one of those things where it's coming out every week, which is really annoying, but whatever.
Okay.
So then I saw that. I started watching this show called Your Friends and Neighbors.
Okay.
Finished the first season of that too.
Okay.
That was a good show as well. Have you heard of any of these?
No.
Yeah, see, the thing is, like, a lot of these things just went under the radar, but like that show is hilarious, and it's about this guy who's rich, loses his money with a divorce. So now he's stealing all of his friend's shit.
I've seen an episode of
It's
this.
so funny.
Did you see the episode where they're playing basketball at that rich friend's house and someone breaks their leg?
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
So good. And then I didn't realize this, but like the girl in the show that he's like hooking up with, she was on G4 TV or whatever. Like, I think her name is Olivia Munn.
Oh yeah.
She's
been in a lot of movies.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that, and I was like, oh my god, yeah.
Wasn't she an X-Men as?
She was, yeah. I think she was an X-Men. Was it the Future Dates of Past?
Yeah, and she was. I'm forgetting. Yeah.
Was it Mystique?
Not Mystique.
No. But anyways, yeah. So she's in that show too, and I was like, oh wow, that's kind of an interesting connection to the gaming world. But no, I finished that show. That was hilarious. That was good. I've been watching Stick. That show has been hilarious. So it's kind of nice that you have that balance of like, oh, okay. You have like really funny shows that are actually well written. Then you have a lot of amazing sci-fi, Silo, Foundation, Severance, even though it's not been my thing. So that's been nice. So yeah, honestly, I've really just been watching a lot of Apple TV. And I think like that's one that really goes under the radar. Like people haven't really been realizing how good it is because like they've just been stacking up these hits quietly.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't like all these shows on Apple TV, like they're being very selective, and I like that. It's just I don't know, I still don't have like this inkling to want to purchase the service to start watching them because I feel like because they're so under the radar, I'm like, oh, maybe they're not good, but they're really
so
are.
niche and under the radar. Like no one even talks about that, right? But honestly, I would say Netflix to me is like the best in terms of their content.
And
Apple
marketing.
TV, yeah,
Like
that's what they're
Apple
the
TV
best
does
at.
not
Apple
market
TV
much.
doesn't really market those, which is crazy to me because like half the world has like an iPhone,
I
right?
know.
But honestly, Apple TV might be like my second favorite platform right
I'm not
now, right?
surprised.
It was Prime Video, but then I just feel like Prime Video just cancels too much stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
just
Bloat.
all over the place. Um, so that's been a good experience for me. And then I saw Sandman season 2. Have you seen any of Sandman?
I've seen Sandman like the first 3 episodes of season 1, so I haven't finished
Yeah,
season 1.
yeah. Okay, Sandman. I don't know. It's like a weird show.
Yeah,
Like
it's
I
a very weird.
really like the show, and I feel like I shouldn't like it, but I just end up really enjoying it. And like season 2, like it's kind of obvious how things are headed where they're headed, and you're just like, okay, dude, like how could you not see how things are going to turn out for you? Like
Right.
have a little bit of foresight. Like you've lived like forever. Like how
Yeah.
can you not
Yeah.
even predict what's
Yeah.
very clearly what's going to happen to you? But in a way, it just works, and I don't know if it's like, I feel like it's the actor, honestly, or maybe it's the writing, but
Yeah.
really I feel like it's the actor.
Actor.
He just sells it so well, where
Yeah.
you're just like, yeah, this guy is like human, but like really not human. Like,
Yeah.
and it's kind of interesting in interpretation of what a godlike figure would be, because it's like, God, like, humans are created in God's image, but like you could tell that like because you're not mortal, there are these things that are just like kind of obvious that you should understand that you just do not understand, and it's just for some reason it just works in Sandman, and I had a good experience with it. I'm looking forward to the next season. Well, I should
This is last
clarify.
season.
Okay, I should clarify because it's another one of the stupid, annoying things Netflix does, where it's a part one, part two.
Oh,
So,
perfect. I was gonna say
so
there's
I
no more
guess
next season.
yeah, this is probably
They're doing that
it
again
for
to
it.
retain.
Oh god, they always do it.
Viewership.
It's so annoying.
They're doing it, by the way, for Stranger Things season 3. They're doing almost a 3-part thing where it's
Three,
part.
isn't it like 6 now or
What is
5?
it?
What season is it? Stranger Things?
Season 5. So
Oh.
season 5, part 1 is Thanksgiving. Season 5, part 2 is Christmas, and season 5 finale is New Year's Eve.
That's
So
crazy.
dumb. So it's like they're doing this to get people that can keep their membership.
Yeah,
But yeah, so other than Stranger Things, yeah, I just find that funny. I started watching Andor season 1. I want to say what the hype is about this show. Like, I watched the first 3 episodes, and I know season 2's out, but I just started watching season 1, and I'm like, first episode, like, there's nothing really special here, but episode 4 finally got me hyped up a little bit. And I like the fact, like, so it's really well known that the budget for this show has been really expensive, and they have some famous people in this show too, the Skarsgård's dad and stuff like that. But like, I don't know. I feel like they did a great job with the CGI. It actually looks good, like really good. I don't think the story's there for me just yet. And maybe it evolves over time. There's like 12 episodes in season 1. And I don't know how many in season 2.
I mean, season 2 got amazing reviews, right? Like this was like one of the best Star Wars stories or something like that.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe season 1's still slightly highly reviewed than season 2. It's taking a little long for me to hit. It doesn't seem anything unique. Like
I felt like, I think a lot of what you're describing is how I felt about Andor, and that's why I couldn't finish it. Like, I wasn't even able to finish the first episode, and I think really I was just so burnt out of Star Wars, and it was like, I feel like I've just seen so many of those rebel stories, in the same planets. I was like, I just can't.
Nothing changes because we have the movies, the movies, and this is canonical too. It's just we know what happens, so anything in between doesn't really matter.
So because of that, I was like, and I think the reason why I'm still able to enjoy like Fallen Order and stuff like that is because it actually feels like it's stakes, and it's like kind of separated a little bit enough from the movies that I feel like it's its own involved story, and it has Jedis and everything, and so that's why I don't feel like the same burnout, especially since there hasn't been a lot of great Star Wars games lately. But yeah, I just could not do another TV show or movie of Star Wars. Like, I just feel like after Mandalorian, I was like, there's just so much,
Yeah, I never finished Mandalorian, and I don't know. I don't think Acolyte was good. I didn't watch it. I do want to finish this though. I just want to give this a chance. So my goal is to like get through it, and then after that, I have just a ton of other shows to watch. So I've been watching that. And then I actually watched Jurassic World and Superman. So I won't give any spoilers here, and I'll wait till you watch the movie so we can discuss it further. But I think what I'll say overall from a high level, Jurassic World was just a fun romp, like a bunch of scares, like hey, this is, as a kid, I'd be like, oh my God, like, look at these monsters. This is just super hype because the thrill of it, and there's not much to the story.
Do you feel like it was better than the last few Jurassic Worlds?
Definitely felt like it was slightly better than the last one.
Okay.
But I think the first Jurassic World, or whatever that one was
That
called,
was actually pretty good.
that was pretty good. I would say this was worse than that.
Yeah, for me, I feel like with the Jurassic World trilogy, like the first one was clearly the best,
Yeah.
and then it's like a big fall off. And then I actually like the third one a little better, and the second one was my least favorite.
Same. And what I'll say is this: it doesn't seem like they set this movie up for sequels, which is okay. It's like self-contained.
But I thought it was supposed to be the start of a new series or chapter. I don't know.
I think this is based off on another book, but I don't know if that they're doing that. Regardless, to say the way they set this movie up, there's no like crazy cliffhangers or anything. So it's just like I kind of liked it that they didn't set it up that way. Even if they make a sequel, I felt like this was perfectly fine.
I don't know what there is about dinosaurs and why I am this way. But even though I know I'm getting the same repackaged stuff with Jurassic Park and Jurassic World again and again and again, I still am excited to see Jurassic Park and Jurassic World again and again and again.
I mean, sure, I am too. Again, it's for the thrill, which is what I
It's
said
just
earlier.
a thrill. Like there's just something inherently fascinating about it, seeing like people having to deal with massive dinosaurs.
And it's a spectacle to it. It looks good. The CGI is good. The jump scares are great. But other than that, honestly, this is just slightly better than the second Jurassic World.
Yeah.
So it's nothing special.
So I'm actually looking forward to watching that. I wasn't able to watch it because I was out of the country, but definitely I'm probably going to watch it before our next podcast.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about it. And then Superman, just again high level, like
you were really hyped on this one.
I was hyped to watch it, and I think there were some good moments in here. There's definitely different than Man of Steel from Zack Snyder. Like Zack Snyder's Man of Steel is very bleak, right? And it's like everything is just ending. The world is ending. It was literally like the world is ending. And it's not to say they don't have these elements in this movie. This Superman's supposed to cater to a bigger audience because it's supposed to be a happy-go-lucky like person, and he has his own problems and things he has to face throughout here. And I think they did a decent job of just going off the bat like this is Superman. But honestly, still for me, Zack Snyder's Man of Steel is my favorite.
Really?
Yeah, wow. I still like that slightly better.
Do you feel like that's a sentiment a lot of people have, or like people really split on it?
No, I think people are split. I actually think more people are going to end up liking this one. And again, it's not bad at all. I enjoyed it for what it was, so I give it an 8 out of 10, and we'll talk about it more.
That's pretty good, yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sure how it'd work out. Like, I think it's James Gunn, right? Like, I think, it's kind of a mixed bag, Like, sometimes you get some Guardian of the Galaxy movies and you really like them, and then other times you get, like, Suicide Squad, and honestly, I really didn't like the Suicide Squad that he made, and I know a lot of people do, but I didn't like it at all. So
this is more aligned to Guardians, and you get some of that Guardians jank in here, like those jokes. But other than that, this had a good cohesive story. It's not like Suicide Squad was all over the place.
So remind me, is this the start of like a new DC universe, basically?
Yeah, this was the first movie of many, and they have multiple phases, and they're trying to keep it tightly under wraps. So they said they're working on a project that they think is so secretive and so good that they don't want to reveal it right now because they don't want anyone to copy it. And I'm like,
whoa,
I don't know. And then what James Gunn
when they're saying anyone, they must be talking about Marvel.
Yeah.
Right? Like, who else are you talking about?
And James Gunn basically said that if you watch Peacemaker Season 2, which is coming out later this year, you'll have a slight idea of where this whole world is going towards.
Okay.
Interesting.
So I feel like DC is now becoming the Marvel of the 2010s, while Marvel continues to do God knows what.
Right.
Well, I guess we'll find out, with Fantastic Four. Probably on our next podcast we can talk about it.
Yeah.
But man, I do feel like we've been having some like big movies coming out, like one after the other. Yeah, it's been a good summer. I really enjoyed the Lilo and Stitch, remake.
F1.
F1, we saw that. You saw those two movies. I'll catch up, and then from there we got Fantastic Four to look forward to. 28 years later, I enjoyed that movie. So, I don't think it's been like 10 out of 10 movies. There hasn't been any movies that blew me away.
Some nostalgia.
I think it's a lot of like 7s and 8s, but like it's actually been satisfying. There's been a good amount of spectacle.
I mean, almost all those movies you mentioned are nostalgia. Superman, Jurassic.
Oh my God, you're so right.
Fantastic.
Oh my
28
God,
years later,
they have infected my nostalgic millennial mind. This is the year of nostalgia.
All nostalgia.
Yeah, I feel like the other generations are probably looking at the movie theaters and like,
Yeah,
There's
does
nothing.
this ish.
And then everyone who's our age is like, oh
Oh my
my god,
god,
what in the
Lilo and
world?
Stitch.
They're bringing everything back.
Yeah, like F1's the only one that's not nostalgic. It's
Yeah.
something new, which
Yeah,
also, by the way, produced by Apple.
yeah. Like I said, Apple is becoming a surprisingly dominant
Yeah,
force, right? And I think F1 is like their first big success,
I think
right?
so.
When it comes to movies, because they made Argyle and Napoleon, and
Oh yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think
The
those did
villain
very
one.
good.
So I thought those were good.
And I mean, I liked F1. I don't know. I don't
I
think we
enjoyed it.
talked about it. I think like halfway through the story just felt a little unbelievable to me because it
Yeah,
just got a little way too convoluted,
yeah.
right? And a little too complicated in the third act. But up until then, like it almost felt like you were watching a true story,
Yeah,
right?
and I love the dramatization. Like Brad Pitt kind of was meant for this role.
Yeah,
Just
he
like
does this role really well. It almost makes me think of like the Cowboy Bebop Spike role, like a older, like chiseled,
yeah,
like a little worn down but funny, a little
yeah,
nihilistic but not too cynical. It's like this like fine balance. He like strikes very well.
yeah. I just think like this thing is slightly overplayed. Like he's pretty old in general, and for him to play another movie is like, yeah, he hooks up with every. There's always a girl in
I
every
know.
movie. It's like you don't need like there's this doesn't need to be
What is the
this.
cutoff age with the Hollywood stars? Is it like
Yeah,
when you get to like Harrison Ford's age at like 80
yeah. Like
that you
when
stop,
yeah,
banging the women in the
yeah,
movies? Like it's like like at
you
a certain point
don't.
it's a little weird.
Yeah, and then again, just like his outside personal problems, like not to bring that in here, but like he's still kind of a scumbag, and in the real world, so like to his kids and obviously his wife. So it's just like okay, I enjoy the movie, but knowing like who he is outside of the world,
Yeah.
even though I don't know him, it's like dude, like
Yeah,
I
I mean
don't
I get
know.
what you mean. It gets a little complicated because even like I don't know if I should not bring this up, but like Kevin Spacey,
Yeah,
how do you kind of reconcile that in your head? Because it's like, yeah, I loved a lot of his work, but it's
House of
like,
Cards is great. And,
it's not even like I'm trying to cancel the guy, like, based off of the testimony and stuff. Like, it's
not
kind of
great.
questionable, scummy stuff, right?
Yeah,
I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, but it seems questionable to me. But it's like now that you had that reputation, like, if Kevin Spacey made a movie, what would that look like?
yeah,
And how would
exactly.
people feel about it? I don't know. So, but I feel like it's a little different because Kevin Spacey will lean more into the villain role, and
Yeah,
Brad Pitt will just be like, "I'm gonna do Brad Pitt, and
yeah,
people will love
yeah.
me." So,
And then Squid Game's season 3.
oh yes, I know you wanted to talk to me about that
Yeah,
actually. So, I actually was happy and I was fine with Squid Games. I don't think we've had a chance to talk about Squid Games season three. I don't think I walked away from that season disappointed.
I wasn't either.
And I think, I don't know what people gave it as reviews, if it was a 7 or an 8.
Sevens.
But like the thing is, like, let's be honest, what did you expect from Squid Games? Like
Yeah,
it's an inherently ridiculous premise.
yeah.
Like how can you end this inherently ridiculous premise in any other way?
And,
Like it's
and
it's ridiculous.
it's that's what it is ending, right? It's how do you end it. Like Money Heist, same problem. It started off so great because the idea was so unique, right? Like the way they started it, and they're like, how do you end it? All stories must come to an end, and these aren't like some weird fantastical like anything can happen. Like legitimate, they try to ground it, and for Squid Games, their grounding was like you either die or you survive
Yeah.
and win, and they had to show it in 6 episodes. They didn't have a whole
And
lot
the
of
thing is,
time.
like, the show made a name for itself by being ridiculous. Like,
Yeah,
okay, who is actually building this on an
yeah,
island with a gigantic robot?
yeah,
You know how expensive that would
yeah.
be? And then it spins around. Like, there's no
And then
billionaires that are spending
I
this
know.
money on this. There's what?
Yeah.
Even if somebody wanted to watch people die, no one is going to pay that much money to build
Well,
a robot to shoot them down instantly.
well, then to blow up the whole island and then come to America and start all over again, like it's hilarious.
it's
It's
just
like,
it's just a ridiculous premise,
yeah,
and it's like, for some things that are just so ridiculous, like you can't make them realistic and gritty because it's just not the
yeah.
show's tone. Like
But
if you start watching Squid Games, right, and you've accepted that these childhood games are now being played and this ridiculously overly expensive thing that would never happen, right? Like, what are you
yeah,
expecting from the ending?
but what I did like is the underlying tone. So like first for what's his name, Leiji, I forgot the main character 456. He's like right before he dies, he puts the baby down and goes like, humans aren't horses, humans are, and he goes dot dot dot, and it's left for the audience to fill in
Yeah,
that blank. So I like that because it's like, what are
yeah,
humans, right? And then
yeah.
to see the dichotomy between him and the new owner, the guy that's the black the masked man, the whatever his name is, saying he went through the same situation with the older guy, and then he took the option of killing everyone and then becoming the next person, right? The next villain. But this time, 456 didn't do that. He didn't follow in his footsteps and instead decided to sacrifice himself. So I'm like, okay, there's something here because even after he did that, the games aren't stopping.
Yeah.
That wasn't going to, but it was just like the idea of it. Like, there are people that will oppose it and say, like,
Yeah.
we are something more.
So the thing is, like in a show like that, like the victory is on points, and like a lot of times in the conventional storytelling, like they're gonna happen at the same time. Like there's the ideological battle,
Yeah.
right, and then there's the actual battle in the real world, with the real world elements and who's gonna actually walk out alive and victorious, right?
Right.
And a lot of times that happens at the same time, but in Squid Games, the artistic choice they decided to do was make it separate, right? And what they're trying to do is like the side story, with like the police officer hiring those people, going to the island and shutting it down. That was supposed to be like one victory, and then the other victory was supposed to be his ideological victory. And I think it goes to show you the strong writing of the show and the main character and how well it was portrayed, that even though I knew that as he was, spoilers, as he was falling and he was dying with the baby, right? Like, it's not actually going to change anything. But when he did that, it just felt so cathartic.
Yeah, it was cathartic.
It felt like a victory. And maybe it's because we live in an age where we always feel like the, 1% of the 1% is always winning and we never do, right? But it just felt like such a cathartic moment to me, even though my mind is registering like, hey, what changed?
Yeah.
Nothing changed, right? But it just felt like, it was the ending that we should have expected.
Yeah.
We just didn't want. So I like that. I mean, if I have any gripe with the show, it's that like the other ending was a little messy handed, right? Because it didn't really feel cathartic in the same way. Because like, really, what did his team accomplish?
Yeah.
Right? They didn't accomplish anything. They just blew up the place because they got close enough to it.
Yeah.
But like, it's not like the other team of people had to overcome something crazy, and because of that they were able to win, right? It was really because everyone on the boat was stupid except for one guy who made a phone call.
Yeah.
And if he had actually just made that phone call instantly, it could have maybe ended differently, but for whatever reason he decided to do it a little bit late in the police station after he already had a conversation for a long time.
Yeah,
right? So because of that, like, that kind of dragged down that story arc. And so I think if there was any criticism I had, like, they could have made that like feel like more of a victory, but it probably would have ended in the same way regardless. I think that was like one of the major gripes I had. But no, I was actually still happy with the story because honestly, after season 1, I was like, what are you gonna do with the story?
Yeah.
And like, I couldn't imagine writing a season 2 or season 3. So like the fact that they were able to like, squeeze anything more out of that ridiculous premise and actually leave me with a cathartic emotional experience, like, wow.
Yeah, so writing good. I think I have to give a lot of credit and shout out to the cast. Each season, the cast was really good, and the way they acted out, like season 3 for the father that actually is the father to the baby. His acting was so good.
So this is why people love Korean like movies and like their shows. Like, God, the actors are so amazing.
So good.
Like, you actually think that like this person is experiencing this thing, or like their fights, like this person actually gonna kill this person. Yeah. They're actually getting beat up. Like, God, they're amazing actors.
Yeah, and like the two dudes that were taking the drugs, or like all of it was just like,
that's the thing. Like, it's such a ridiculous premise, but because the characters, the actors just deliver. No matter how ridiculous of a situation they're in,
they believe it.
They just find a way of making it believable. Like, even if you have like the security officer or whatever who's kind of an idiot and he shot a polycalled earlier or done this different, like, he's just so believable in the scenes where he's acting like a drunk or an idiot or this like stuff like that. Like, he just sells it.
Yeah,
every single one of them.
So, and then that's your other point about like, where could they have gone after season 1? Like, I would have been fine if they just ended it. It was a great thing. Look, this show blew up higher and better and bigger than, not better, but bigger than Stranger Things. So that's more watched than that. But what I will say is that the fact that he found a way to be like, okay, I'm going to find an arc for this person, because in season 3 they immediately started with he basically has PTSD. Everyone basically failed the mission in part 1 of or season 2, and he looks at that one guy. He's like, because of you, like, we fucked up. And then he basically has no reason to live. And after he kills him, he goes, oh, my reason is to protect this baby.
Yeah.
And for them to do that in like 2 episodes and then be like, this
Yeah.
is what you need to do to make up for all your sins or whatever.
And it was like sufficiently dark enough. Like they
Yes.
didn't like just cop out. Like they actually delivered in like season 3, where like it got dark.
Yeah.
Like our hero actually became villainous,
Yeah.
and they didn't shy away. They didn't back away.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is like shows will make certain promises, and if or anything will make promises, and if you don't follow through with the promise to the audience, you're gonna lose them. They're gonna be really angry with you
Yeah.
because why did you promise that? And so to like bring a mother and a son into the games at the same time is a
Yeah.
promise
That was...
and a certain expectation.
Yeah.
And they double down on it.
Yeah.
You know, because if you didn't double down and you had that story end in a way where like it didn't really matter that they were related, people be like, why did you do this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why aren't they just strangers?
Yeah.
But the fact that they doubled down made it such an integral part of the story, and it was dark.
I mean,
so dark.
That was crazy how
I was like,
the
that
mama
was,
hangs herself.
I know, that was so dark. And that's why I was like, oh God, like I really enjoyed season 3. They really delivered.
Yeah. Well, she also imparts this huge thing to him. It's like, hey, like the one thing now you should do is take care of this baby because the mother just killed her. So she's coming to because her leg is, her ankle's fucked up. She goes, you should take care of it. And then when he sees her dead, and he's like, okay, this is my purpose now because she's gone. No one's there to protect the baby.
Thing is, they didn't shy away. Like if she had killed her son and didn't die,
yeah,
right?
Then there's no.
Then people would be like, okay, this is an unbelievable world.
Yeah.
And then like we all have to believe in like this certain like trick of imagination and falsehood that like this is real even though it's not real,
Yeah.
right? And as soon as something absolutely ridiculous like that happens, like ridiculous in the sense that this would never ever happen between people, right? Then it makes the people seem fake.
Yeah.
You can have an unbelievable world, but if your people feel real, then it's okay.
Yeah.
People are fine with it. And so that's why, like, it's not often that someone commits to a character committing suicide, right?
Yeah.
Because that can really affect a lot of people. But in that story, they committed to it, right? And it's not like in a way like 13 Reasons Why or something. Like after you saw that, you're just like, oh, this is so dark, but like, can I be angry at this person?
Right.
You know, like, oh God, I would just never want to be in that situation,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like, it brings up such a complicated web of emotions, right? Because like, you don't know how to feel. You don't know, like, is it pity? Is it anger? Is it like you should have never went there? It's
Yeah.
just like, it's all these emotions, but really in that story, it just is like, you know, in this world, I get it.
Yeah.
This is why this world sucks.
Which is funny because, again, the way the first season started was, hey, it's just these weird, unique games. I don't know what's going on. To everyone's dying and there's like no hope, right? And I mean, again,
but for me, like, I don't know if you felt this way, but like in season 1, like I started skipping a little bit, you know, through some of the games because I was like, okay, everyone's probably gonna die, and like, why should I care? You know, that's just me. But in season 3, like,
I wanted to
as the numbers went down, I wanted to see because I was just like, oh my God. It was less about who's gonna die, and it was more about, is this character gonna do this? And that's like really good writing.
That's good writing because the way they started off season 3, episode 2 was the tranny, the person that is helping, you know, the old lady and the lady with the baby. She gets stabbed by the husband, right? And I'm like, that's when I knew. I was like, okay, then who else is gonna die? And then every episode is do not.
But like that's why I gotta give it to them because like, you know, the characters are fleshed out enough and the actors are so good that like you really feel yourself in the character's shoes and you're just like, oh my God, are they gonna do it? It's like, why do people like Dexter? Because you feel like you put yourself in Dexter's shoes, you can empathize, you can understand, and the whole time you're just like, is Dexter gonna do it?
Yeah.
You know, is he gonna cross that line that we all know you shouldn't, but like, how am I going to feel? Because like, I can empathize with Dexter. He's not all black, you know, and it's hard because then we have to put black and white together and make it gray. And I feel like that's like that richness in the story, telling that like people love those complicated, conflicted people and complicated, conflicted situations. And like, man, Squid Games really delivers on that.
Yeah, it does. And you know, I'll say this for the people that have like crapped on like season 2 of Squid Games, and just to make a parallel, season 4 part 1, it's the same problem. You get a first half of the story and you don't see where they're trying to drive towards, and then of course it's going to be crap because people are like, why are they making all these decisions? And then when you finally see it put together, it's like, okay, honestly, could season 3 have existed on its own without 2? Probably not, because you had to establish all those people first, that cast that became a family before they can all die and mean something.
Yeah.
So
And the thing is, like, a lot of times, like, especially when I'm writing, like, I'm just trying to get, like, from point A to point B, because I'm like, oh, this crazy thing is going to happen at the end or at this part, and I just have to find a way of getting my characters from this place to this place, right? And I think that's why a lot of movies, like, or TV shows, they sag in the middle.
yeah,
Because, like, people start off with a cool idea in the beginning, it's the setting is really cool,
yeah,
and the ending, it's going to be emotional, but how do we get there is the hardest thing, and it's
yeah,
boring and it's hard because
yeah.
you really have to focus on the characters and their interactions and their
And
motivations and their
I
triumphs and failures, and that's the core of writing that's really hard.
and I think that's why season 2 sagged, because we already knew who the villain was, and the masked man was being a contestant, and the contestants themselves didn't know, but we as the audience knew, and that broke
Yeah.
a bit of the immersion, the intention. It was
Yeah,
just
it's like Shakespeare and like the cosmic irony and stuff.
Yeah.
Like we were just waiting for it to happen because
Yeah.
we knew it was going to happen, so we were like passive,
yeah,
right? Like we didn't really feel like a part of
yeah,
the storytelling. But in the third season, it's
It
more
was
active
like-
because you don't know what's going to happen,
yeah,
and you're just like, oh my god, like, are these characters going to do it? Are they going to get to that
Yeah.
level? Like, we know how this is supposed to end, but is there a way it won't end that way, right?
Yeah.
And so, that's why, again, I really thought that season 3 delivered. I just think it's a shame that, like, half of that story to me was really well done, like
Yeah.
everything within the island, right? And
I
I do feel like where it was let down was like the team on the boat.
yeah. That went on too long.
Like that was too long, too obvious. Like
Yeah.
and I hate it when, like, and for that one, I really did feel like the writers who were, when they were writing that, it was like, how do we get this from point A to point B? We know that these characters have to show up at this island in this damaged situation
Yeah.
with these weaknesses. So how do I get them there? Not too early, not too late, but at the perfect time.
Yeah.
So it's basically, how do we do this? And so that's why it just felt like pointless. And a lot of times, in order to do that,
Well-
you just have to make some character stupid,
Well, which
right?
is
Like you have to make some character.
yeah, because I like the detective, and I'll be honest with you, there was no resolution to this thing about his brother, because all they did as a in between was, hey, the masked man found all the money. He puts it on a credit card for the baby, gives the baby to his brother, and he puts the rest of the money on the other card and gives it to 456's daughter. It's like,
Yeah.
is he trying to atone for something?
So
Or
there's no resolution to the character arc. Like, you gave us an expectation that there was going to be some
reveal about
reveal,
why he became who he
some-
became.
Yeah, and like, I mean, they kind of teased it a little bit.
Yeah,
you know,
he had a
where they're
daughter
like,
and a wife,
and then like he had to make this, decide to kill everyone, and he did, and then the main character didn't. So I get that, but like between the brothers, like there was a lot of promises of how that would eventually go or end, and we wanted to see what would happen, and they just dropped the ball.
They also in season 1 teased that his brother had a family before
Yeah.
he became this
Yeah.
person. What happened to the family? The baby, his daughter, and the wife.
Yeah, so I think
I'd love
that's,
to know why he turned into.
and it's just such a shame that, like, that part of the story just didn't get the same attention.
Yeah.
And I just feel like they were juggling a lot of different.
So maybe
things.
in order to play out 456's story, they couldn't flesh out this person. But it's the same thing with Money Heist. They had, what was the two main brothers? What were their names? I forgot their names. But after the show ended, they did a spin-off of the older brother to then finally Berlin to finally flesh them out. And I'm sure that, because there's already rumors that they might do spin-offs of Squid Games, so I could see it being about.
I think so.
The masked man.
I think that would make sense, and I think you're going to get some more conflict resolution between the brothers, because that's just not, the story's not done there.
Yeah, it's not done.
And so, but I think, like, if I had one thing I would have done differently with that, like, I would have tried to make the whole journey to the island on that boat a little more believable, and not like everyone here is an
constantly
idiot.
failing.
Because
I don't know what island.
Everyone is like such an idiot, right? And it's like, that's the only reason why you haven't gone to the island.
That whole team gets shot up literally by one dude. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. So I think that was kind of dumb, you know. And then, like, there was a North Korea spies, story, which did have some resolution, but like the thing is, like, a lot of times what happens is, like, you'll have multiple stories that are seemingly running in parallel, but then eventually they will intersect in interesting ways. Her story didn't really intersect, right?
Yeah, not at all.
And so it just seemed like we were watching a spin-off to Squid Games. At the same time, we were actually watching Squid Games
100%.
Season 3, and then we were watching another story that was not a spin-off, that was supposed to be an integral part of the season, that just never got there.
Yeah, so that thread, there were so many threads, because she's like, at the end, oh, my daughter might still be alive. I'm going to, was it China or something? It's like, what? okay, like what is that? You saved some dude that whose daughter was supposedly terminally ill, but then was saved, and now you're going to search for your daughter, and why do we care?
Yeah, it was just a complete. That was a complete spin-off.
Yeah, and by the way, she almost committed suicide until she saw
Yeah.
456 say
Yeah. So
kill
the
himself.
only way it wasn't a spin-off is like slight indirect things like
Yeah.
yeah, that was basically it. And then like interaction with the boat. And
Was
it's
I
like,
supposed to care about this person, the spy? Like, why would I?
yeah, I mean, if you think about those, like the only 2 points it interacted, it was
Yeah.
like her seeing the baby,
Yeah.
and then the boat situation with the father
The
being able
father.
to escape because the other people coming in. Other than that, it was a complete side story.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, I don't care
So
about this one.
so I think that's what really dragged down Squid Games.
Well, there's the third part, which is she kills the other lieutenant, and like, what was
Yeah,
that?
but
Like,
like that's something you just invented.
yeah, you
You
invented
just
that.
invented a character for her to take out.
Yeah.
To give her something to do.
Yeah, to make her like another hero almost.
But like, how do we know there's not like 50 lieutenants?
Yeah.
So what was the meaning?
And I'm sure they will
Unless I
replace
was
him.
missing something, and maybe he was. I guess he was the second in line, but like when the third in line and fourth in line, just be able to do the same thing.
And coincidentally, he's from North Korea too. Like,
Yeah.
okay, that's not.
So I think those are the things that drag down the story. But like the things it did well, like it delivered on it way better than I expected.
Yeah.
And the story actually went somewhere where I was like, oh, I'm actually happy they did a season 2 and 3.
Yeah,
right?
I am too.
So, overall, I would consider it a success.
I would say that this is interesting. The writer did say he considered two outcomes for the ending. One was him dying of player 456. The other was he would be alive and he would just end up being with his daughter at the end. He would make it back home to America. And so they decided he just went with this ending. So
Yeah.
I think this is better.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one is definitely something that sits with you, and it leaves a more lasting impact, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's stronger in that, perspective, but I think like I again wish all the other side stories were done well because like then we would have gotten a cathartic ending across the board.
Yeah,
right?
I agree. And they did say this was interesting that how the billionaires are like, oh, we never had the same person win twice, and they're like, he could have, but he decided not to. And there was again the messaging, the powerful messaging behind it. So.
Yeah. So. All right, well, I think that covers up most of what we've seen, right?
Yeah.
So I guess last couple things to close on. What are you looking forward to from now until our next podcast?
That's a good question. I think there's a bit of a lull for July. I mean, we have some good games to play. I think overall with Donkey Kong and just some of the stuff we've been looking at, and some shows to catch up on. I'm looking forward to Fantastic Four. To be honest, I've been hearing some interesting things on Twitter for this week. People have already seen it. I think it'll probably be just as good as Superman. I don't think it's gonna be any better, but I think it'll be just as good. So
yeah, I'm also looking forward to Fantastic Four. I'm not like super hyped on it, but I'm just waiting for the movie that I feel like properly course corrects Marvel. Right, so we'll see if it's this one. Wu Chang is coming out on Game Pass. I have been kind of interested in that one, so we'll see. But really, I'm just catching up on my backlog and maybe dipping into Donkey Kong. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Sounds about right. So all right, see you, everyone.
All right, peace out, everyone.